A girl with red hair screams that His Majesty is doing wrong. She is the mother of the people and the Empress, as well as the young man's companion in life. The Emperor looks arrogantly. His name is Alexander Grandia Zayara de Castia, and he is the one who treats his wife this way without looking for compromise. Robelia flatters herself. A man never considers her his only wife because she forgot about the existence of Empress Aisha. There are too many buts to this. The girl understands that she will truly remain a mistress, that time, like Isha, is just some kind of concubine. The girl lives in her illusions. They can overthrow her from the throne without even lifting a finger, but they decide to leave her alone at least for a while. Listening to all these insults, the beauty cannot believe that she once fell in love with this man. Tears pour from my eyes and don't stop. The woman is not even worth a finger or a nail on Aisha's hand, but she already climbs forward so confidently. Such complacency is a little infuriating. Robelia will always be just a trinket, thanks to which the young man was able to borrow the power of the Duke of Blanchet. It didn't mean anything anymore. The hero never loved his wife and did not want to show freedom. In the future, each of these feelings will undoubtedly be received by Aisha, who is already ready for this. The Emperor no longer even wants to listen to the beauty. He leaves the main hall, causing the redhead to fall onto the tiles and continue to sob. The girl screams, clutching her head, about how sorry she is for the main character. Without a doubt, she deserves much more. The brunette does not understand how and why the brunette is so cruel to his wife. If he doesn't love her, then it's better to break up and forget about her coexistence forever. Flowers from Another World is the story of how the protagonist, transported into a novel, becomes an empress and ultimately wins the love of a prince. This seems like fairly common content for a fantasy novel, considering how it's generally described. The heroine still does not fully understand. Since there was no love between these two, it was a marriage of convenience. But meanwhile, they were still a couple, as if nothing had happened. The main character dared to take the place of the Empress, but exactly how is not clear. The Emperor was so blinded by the heroine that he abandoned his wife, or something like that. The man has not become one to look back on the past, so after the Empress dies of illness, he places his new lover on the throne, completely forgetting about what happened before. Sincere love became a sin, which allowed the girl to feel it on a different level. Robelia had to suffer quite a lot, but in the end, everything should be fine. Alexander, although he is an emperor, still remains a pathetic person who does not deserve attention or recognition. Sighing, the lady turns her gaze to the clock that hangs nearby on the wall near the bed. The brunette sadly realizes that she is busy with something unknown because it is already too late. After an exhausting day, the beauty decides to just go to bed. Just recently, she started working on a new project that needed to be completed very soon. Even on the day when everything happened, the brunette must take care to get everything done and go to work early without any delays. The woman fell asleep with the thought that everything would be fine and made plans for the day, but woke up hearing the voice of the maid, who said that Alex had resolved something. The gaze switches to the room in which the girl appeared. The beautiful patterns on the walls and the old-fashioned, expensive furniture did not resemble the mini style in the heroine's room. The rooms turned out to be so spacious that one could probably even run around in them without any problems. The clothes the people wore were also not ordinary. After looking around the apartment and everything else around, the beauty turns her attention to herself. The image does not seem simple because the red hair gives everything away. Being an ordinary student in Korea, the girl somehow ended up in the Kastia Empire from the novel Flowers from Another World. Realizing the situation makes me want to scream. The brunette became that same Robelia. Now she is not just a person without rights who is like everyone else, but an empress from a famous book who will have to change her fate once and for all. At first, the girl thought it was a dream, so she tried her best to wake up, hitting herself on the cheeks with her palms. But in the end, nothing happened. It only succeeded in scaring the servants around. Her Majesty was in a good mind and understood what she was doing, but in the end, it didn't end quite the way she wanted. The girl fell to the ground while they tried to calm her down. Robelia was so pitiful that she wanted to cry, but she clearly didn't want to. It would be worth making her the main character, since she even managed to get a meeting with the Emperor. Friends promised to make the princess a beauty, starting to prepare. Obviously, the conversation is about the main male character, who is already known to everyone. The brunette did not want to see Alexander. Of course, there was no choice, but this did not mean that the action became more enjoyable. He was the one who made Robelia's life hell, starting from the very beginning. A brilliant idea comes to mind. Now the lady knows exactly what she should do, so she makes eyes, making a languid look. She asks the servants to make her the most beautiful. You can see from the faces of the maids that they are happy. Each of them sincerely wanted the heroine to be loved by the emperor, but the girl cannot live life in Robelia's body. Not even an hour has passed before the preparations are completely completed. The red-haired woman was dressed in a green dress, reflecting her natural beauty and hair color. Walking further, the lady notices a majestic door. Without any clues, it became clear that this was just an office. The fact itself is annoying, because the man made the girl wait for 2 more weeks. Most likely, the guy will say that he has a lot of work and then throw his wife out the door, but the heroine doesn't care. Beauty is not Robelia, so she believes that you can do whatever you want. The cheeks turn a little red. Now it becomes clear why Alex is the main character of this novel, because his beauty is simply wonderful. In this entire situation, the lady believes that the most important thing is the information that can be obtained. She just got into a new world, and in order to be saved, she needs to try to find out as much as possible. No one knows the truth, so all that remains is to build theories. The lady had to survive in such an unfavorable atmosphere all the time. Before arriving at the reception, the girl tried to at least understand the whole situation a little, but she didn't understand anything normally, except that the story had just begun. Aisha arrived at the palace as soon as 6 months ago, which means that the emperor was just beginning to show interest in her. All is lost, but not all yet. There is a strange atmosphere in the castle, but this cannot be changed. The brunette bows his head, and finally distracted from the endless papers, asks the beauty what happened. There is nothing left to do but take the first step. The beauty understands that Alexander will trample the lady into the mud, but until this happens, she insists on a divorce. Almost stuttering, which is not typical for such a guy, he asks what happened, repeating what she just said. I can't believe this is happening. A woman is not in a position to take a guy weakly, but in the end, nothing works. She expected such a reaction, so now she listens that nothing will happen. All this time, Robelia managed the internal affairs of the palace perfectly without any incident. She wanted to help her husband. In order to win the love of the emperor, the heroine tried to give her best, so as not to interfere with everything that was happening. She was even ready to share the young man with Aisha. What was happening and similar behavior was normal only for Robelia, but not for any other person. Virgo bows her head, assuring that she does not take anyone weakly. The woman thought for a long time and came to the conclusion that she did not deserve such an honorable place as empress, so she was going to refuse it. The brunette looks straight at his wife. He didn't expect to hear something like that, because the guy never expected to lose a valuable employee for the castle. The heroine is trying to play to the public and gain pity. She came to this conclusion after long and painful reflection, asking her to accept it even if she didn't like something. The girl performed the duties of the empress perfectly for many years. She can't say anything like that after what she's done. The battle doesn't stop. The girl claims that she didn't do her job well, so she doesn't deserve this place. The brunette must understand this. After this, there is obviously no choice left. The young man thinks, or at least it seems so. He doesn't say anything that could make it clear how he feels about the situation as a whole. The hero understands that the lady is upset by the fact that he did not visit her for 2 whole weeks, and she had to try to get a meeting in order to talk. Words of regret escape your lips. As it turned out, the Trojans were trying to break into the city, so an enormous number of problems arose. A smile appears on your face. The man promises that from now on he will try to visit the lady as often as possible so that she does not get bored and does not think about divorce. The promise will be fulfilled because the hero will become the very person that the girl missed so much. She doesn't know what to say because she was going to get a different outcome of events. The hand squeezes the dress to calm down a little. Of course, the red-haired girl expected even this. At first, Alexander used the stick, and now he switched to the carrot to calm his wife. The young man's behavior seems sweet, and even to some extent similar to a caring person, however. As history shows, Robelia will die at his hands. Can't be trusted. Smiling, the beauty promises that everything will be okay. The husband will certainly be able to find a more suitable person to take the place of the empress. Aisha can easily take the place of the future ruler. The answer is not suitable because Kastya asks not to worry about it. A woman is nothing more than a concubine. The girl is needed only to improve relations with other countries and nothing more. It is clear that the statement carries absolutely no meaning. Only 6 months have passed since the woman arrived at the castle. She didn't have time to do anything, especially since she doesn't live in the same room with the emperor. Taking the place of the empress and bearing such an unbearable burden is quite difficult. So in order to repeat everything again, Alexander assures that there is nothing to worry about. The expression on the guy's face once again proves that at the moment he is trying to make amends and drive bad thoughts out of his wife's head. Other emotions are the hardest to read. A girl doesn't have to think too hard to understand what a boy thinks about jealousy. He knows that his wife is jealous of Aisha, but does not know that it is another person. Aisha has nothing to do with it. For some reason, the handsome man mistakenly thinks that she is a rival for a woman, but how greatly he is mistaken. The only thing the heroine understood was that she was not suitable for the role of empress. Closing her eyes, the red-haired girl gathers her thoughts to once again say everything she thinks. All that remains is to ask to be allowed to leave as quickly as possible. No longer using the gingerbread, the young man frowns. Duke Blanchet will not allow anything like this to be done, even if the beauty wishes. She cannot try to pretend to be an ordinary person. The Robelia family is the most prestigious family. They used to enjoy prestige because they contributed greatly to the founding of the country. Since that moment, 3 generations have already grown up, and the family has lost the trust of the emperor. Only the name remained, which is why the Duke nominated his eldest daughter for the role of queen. The girl does not know what kind of agreement was made, but if the lady loses her place and leaves, the family will also be wrecked, experiencing problems. According to the law, divorce requires only the agreement of the couple, not the family. The lady does not care about her father and mother, whom she does not know, because she came from another world. Still, smiling, the girl asks to correct her words if she is suddenly mistaken. She understands that she cannot be wrong, because she even looked into the library to check the laws of the empire. The arguments begin to end, and it is noticeable from the guy's face that he is starting to get very nervous. In the history of the empire, there was not a single case of divorce between the emperor and empress. Leaning back in his chair, the hero sighs heavily. He thinks about what is worth doing, knowing full well that if his wife wishes so, nothing can be done. In any case, the brunette disagrees. Divorce is unacceptable when one of the parties does not give its consent, and the place of the empress cannot be left just at will. The girl is thinking. Thoughts are jumping in my head about what can be done in the future, because there are no intentions of leaving it all just like that. Nobody wants to die. Thoughts are interrupted by the emperor, who asks to tell him what happened. But if there is nothing to say, then you can safely leave and mind your own business. The husband promises to do whatever he wants, not including divorce in this small list, because they have already managed to talk about this even more than once. The young man will really do whatever the girl wants. He wouldn't dare lie to a man who runs an entire country, especially without any mistakes. In this case, the girl can do whatever she wants. Since it's impossible to escape from Alexander, Robelia is going to do something worse so that the guy himself allows him to leave. Thinking, the hero asks to speak not as ambiguous as it happens. He wants to understand his wife, but so far there are problems with this. Without saying anything, the red-haired girl gets up from her seat to quickly get away. Before heading out the door, she curtsies as if to say goodbye. Conversation is all that will be needed for now at the stage of the plan they are at. The young man must be careful, because his wife will not stop so easily. If the hero does not give the right to divorce, the woman promises herself that she will find a way to do this, but in a different way. Everyone will regret it. In the corridor, the beauty stumbles upon a concubine. Long dark hair and black eyes give the owner away. At first glance, the young lady is innocent and sweet, but so far it has not been possible to understand all of her emotions and character traits. This person is Aisha. The woman comes closer. She doesn't dare say anything, so she just silently looks at the brunette almost point blank, waiting for her to move on. The girl seems to feel quite free as she moves around the palace as if she were a queen. From her frightened look, it is clear that she did not expect to meet the one standing in front of her. There is nothing to say, especially since the red-haired girl does not find proper interest in what they are doing. All you have to do is choose the easiest option and leave. Instead of letting the princess leave, the girl smiles sharply, causing the lady to stop. They haven't seen each other for a long time, but that's no reason to behave like that. Having become an empress concubine, the lady began to learn etiquette, but so far this is not noticeable because she behaves in a similar way with the empress consort. The fact is that the brunette does everything on purpose to piss the lady off, even if she doesn't want it. In order not to give away her thoughts, the heroine also greets her friend. His Majesty the Emperor made an appointment, so Aisha came immediately. Initially, everything was supposed to take place in his chambers, but then the young man changed the place. These two even managed to reach the bed. The beauty did not know such juicy details, so in order not to think even more, she tries to smile. Replying with a simple, "I see," Robelia says that she is a little busy and is about to leave. She doesn't care about the couple's relationship, but instead of being allowed to leave, her friend stops her. The beauty turns and looks straight into the eyes of the brunette, who is trying to say something. She thinks for just a split second to draw conclusions. They are both girls. Everyone knows that there are secrets between girls, and this is exactly what Aisha is heading towards, who is obviously up to something again. The woman asks to be honest with her. She has noticed some changes in Her Highness the Empress, so she asks if she is trying to attract His Majesty's attention. The eyebrows frown a little, but in general, it is almost impossible to determine the beauty's mood. Previously, when the lady read the novel, she considered the brunette absolutely innocent in this situation as a whole. Now, looking at the girl's smile, it becomes clear that the girl was in a hurry with her conclusions. The brunette is acting strange, and as if she is trying to ruin everything. A smile stretches across the Empress's face, but Aisha does not give up. She asks what made her friend laugh so much, not realizing how childish she was behaving. Grunting, the red-haired woman is silent for a while, and then still says that she finds the behavior of the concubine, who suspects nothing, funny. The girl is trying to protect and take away what rightfully belongs to Robelia. This seems to be an even more ironic exit, which makes one doubt the concubine as a person. No longer wanting to continue the pointless conversation, the maiden turns to leave. The interlocutor can keep everything for herself, given that the heroine does not need it at all. A couple can live together for at least 1,000 years, because the girl doesn't care at all. The most important thing in a union is that no one touches the wife. On top of all this, the maiden is about to become a villain. The emperor said that a woman can do whatever she wants, which means that the imperial treasury is at the disposal of the empress. You can have a lot of fun with this kind of data. In any case, there is no point in returning back to your world. Nothing bad will happen if the girl enjoys her time in the castle. The next morning, the first of the reforms began. Aisha came out onto the threshold and, almost shouting, asked her friend what was going on around her. Renovations have begun in the heroine's palace. She grins, because it takes a long time to reach her friend, but she asks more questions. For some reason, the lady decided to move to her castle. The first thing the lady decided to do as soon as she became a villain was that she would move to another castle for a while, and Isha would live with her there. The Empress's palace was a huge, luxurious palace, replete with antique furniture. Of course, compared to the Empress's palace, the concubine's palace was better. From the moment the emperor began to give a damn about his own wife, his subjects did the same with her chambers, leaving everything in a terrible state. Robelia, in turn, did not repair anything in order to imitate Aisha's modest life, and eventually died from a lung disease that she contracted. The stupidest thing in history was that no matter how modestly the concubine lived, Alexander did everything to change it. He filled the estate with various expensive items for other aristocrats to see. The chief empress palace is not that big, so renovations won't take much time. Virgo does not know when she will be able to get a divorce, so she started all this. There are a couple of empty palaces around, but even a friend has a few spare rooms. She's going to live together. If a lady doesn't like this decision of the bosses, no one will hold her. Now the lady will become the main villain, so she will not tolerate such impudence. The brunette can't hold back anymore. This is only her palace, so she doesn't understand why she needs to move out without permission. Leaning closer, the red-haired one reminds her with a mocking tone that they are both girls, so they will find a common language. There is still no choice. By making eyes like a fawn, the lady accepts the fact that she is hated, but the emperor cannot do the same. He must give his consent. The woman laughs. She watches Isha heading out, so she assumes that she is most likely going to go complain to the emperor. An hour later, Alexander arrived. He became more punctual, so he came as promised. The conversation will most likely be difficult. The young man could not believe what was happening. Aisha told him that the main empress was going to live with her in her palace. A woman should have a place to stay. This is an unprecedented case in the history of the empire when a queen seeks the estate of a concubine. The emperor himself said that his wife can do whatever she wants, which she follows almost regularly. In addition to all this, the maiden invited her mistress to live together, but she refused. Eyebrows creep down when a man rubs the bridge of his nose. Rebellia begins to slowly piss him off. A woman dares to take away the palace from her husband's beloved, although she understands perfectly well that she can get something better than something like that. The king himself most likely did the same in relation to the issue with the palace. He himself said that a lady can do whatever she wants. The young man looks straight at his interlocutor, still giving up. He never knew that Rebellia was so stubborn, but as it turned out, it was true. A smile lights up your face. The guy is ready to submit to such a senseless foreman, so it's clear that he doesn't want to get a divorce. Thoughts only become clogged, so the girl tries to forget about it. It will be difficult for different people to live under the same roof, but in the end, it doesn't matter. If everything works out, the emperor will still try to convince Aisha to agree. The lady promises to look at her behavior. In such a situation, the lady, of course, is not going to sit idly by, but it becomes clear that it will not be as easy as she would like it to be. After several hours, nothing happened. This makes the beauty think about everything that happened even more than usual. Things were transported. All this helped Rebellia feel at home and fill the empty rooms. As a result, things took more than Aisha. It seems that Alexander did a great job and convinced his wife to shut up. No matter how huge the estate was, the couple still met often. At such moments, when they did see each other, the brunette behaved like a child and pretended that she did not see or hear the queen, who usually passed by. Looking at the expression on the concubine's face, the lady understood every time that she felt injustice, but continued to remain silent. This situation was not at all what the beauty had hoped for. There were many reasons to get a divorce, but none of them worked. If you remember the original plot, then Rebellia exists only as a minor character who is compared to Aisha. It wasn't fair. The current heroine cannot allow anything like this, because she understands perfectly well that it will ruin her life. Since the maiden has already decided to become a villain, she is going to do even more things that can be used against the concubine. The first step was to spend more money. Turning to the maid, the lady says that she wants to buy several outfits, so she calls one of the designers. The lady called herself a villain, so she is obliged to live with the luxury that suits her. You can't lower the bar any lower. All the people who arrived were called to pick out outfits and decorations. They are whispering, because the queen threw away many outfits and gave some to the maids. The first few options are shown first. They will look perfect with red hair. The designer suggests looking at the catalog, and as expected, all the outfits are beautiful. The woman had never in her life not only worn something like this, but never even touched it. In order to send her brother to study abroad, the girl's family went out of their way to accumulate debts. The lady was able to go to the university she wanted, but her brother could not. My father retired, so he no longer cared for the family. Im Young-ah decided that she would live only for herself. She no longer had any reason to help those who behaved so ungratefully. Even after the girl left home, she still sent most of the money to her family. His character did not allow him to behave in any other way. Of course, the heroine in Rebellia are different, because she lived in a rented room and could barely afford clothes, but she still empathized with her. Now it seems that such magnificent things are too much. You have to fall on your knees to get them, which is no longer true. There is no point in refusing because of embarrassment, because the girl is a queen. The man asks if Her Majesty likes the outfits they show her. The girl thinks about what to answer and what to say next. She doesn't really want to spoil the mood for everyone else, but she understands that she wants to be the villain and get out of the nightmare. Throwing away a booklet with different outfits, the heroine looks impudently at those gathered. The outfits seem disgusting, so she won't wear them. The blonde blinks his eyes in surprise. He tries to ask the lady what's wrong, but she interrupts him literally mid-sentence. According to the lady, if she appears in such an outfit, she will simply be laughed at. There is something more suitable, but they just don't want to show it. The young man bows his head, saying that he has prepared only one catalog, but he can wait 2 months. The woman does not intend to walk around in just a robe. For starters, you could at least try to protect yourself. Aisha walks around and boasts that she has an appointment with the boy next week. Basically, clothes in the aristocracy are made to order. After selecting an image from the catalog, tailors sew it for the person in a single copy. Nobles are quite picky, so they wouldn't wear the same clothes that someone else has. They need something special. Isha is a rising star in social circles, which means she is a special client who deserves special treatment. The outfit chosen by such a person would be everyone's joy, would attract attention, and of course would appear in the newspapers more than once. The design for Aisha's dress should already be ready. In order not to seem rude, the designer is trying to explain the fact that this is only suitable for one girl. Considering how diligently the man makes excuses, the girl has not even had time to book the design of the dress she chose. The young man does not dare refuse the one who approached him earlier. He does not understand who is higher in status, the empress or the concubine, so objections are not accepted. The heroine can show her power only if she wants to. She's not going to put up with any problems. A few minutes later, the assistants brought a booklet with a selection of dresses, of which there were 14. The woman chose all of them, which amazed the others. The red-haired girl doesn't like to be told twice, given her high status. Each of the dresses will be reserved for her without any questions asked. In the end, a lady can afford everything. Her plan included a step where she would sell clothes and jewelry to afford life after her divorce. The next morning in the hall at the meeting of aristocrats, everyone was talking about the expenses that had become too high because of the former princess who behaved this way. Alexander, who always organized meetings, listens to everything they say about his wife. She spent crazy amounts on clothes she didn't need. Lastly, Empress Rebelia de Castia poses as an imperious ruler, but nothing good comes of it. She's worth keeping an eye on. The man chuckles. He doesn't shut anyone up, but waits for everyone to shut up. It was interesting to see how far it would go. The wealth of the empire could fill the entire domain of the Nixos Empire. Perhaps the civilization of all continents will come to an end, but the empire will exist forever. The men gathered in the hall do not immediately understand what exactly His Majesty is driving at. They had too many questions. The finances of the empire are comparable to Lake Nixos. Just a couple of dresses, although expensive, will not empty the treasury, which is so large. Alexander II is the country, and the country is him, and there is no doubt about that. As practice shows, nothing is replaceable. His Majesty personally chose the Empress and would not dare anyone to condemn his choice. The financier is the first person who does this worse than everyone else. The brunette begins to stutter. They turn to him, but in order not to lose face even more, he says that he was worried about the finances of the empire. The financier used to be the one who was mistakenly placed in a place he did not deserve. Now everything will change, because they will change him. He was given house arrest for 3 months. The Empress must wear clothes appropriate to her status, so if 1/100th of the budget is spent, it will not do anything. In this case, no one had any objections. It becomes clear that the others are nodding their heads. Turning to the secretary, the young man orders him to give Rebelia a dress 10 times more beautiful and more expensive than what the maiden has already purchased. The man is silent and then bows his head. He can do as His Majesty orders without any problem. There are no more objections. It becomes clear that authority has been restored, so Castia is going to continue the meeting. Count Clexton found himself out of the game much faster than the emperor himself expected. This couldn't help but make him feel happy. It cannot be denied that the man contributed to the process of succession to the throne, but still lost his place. He clung to his place like a bat and was unhappy with everything. The coincidence turned out to be no coincidence. This is not the first time the brunette has thought about clearing his place of people around who he doesn't need. The secretary agrees, but if the emperor is suspected of abuse of power, a negative reaction will flow in a wave that will be impossible to stop. 3 years from the date of appointment is very little, so everything is still ahead. In any case, if the guy is just as capricious, even no amount of exploits will save him. People around still won't understand the most important thing. The young man took the throne not long ago, which means that he is halfway to strengthening imperial power. The best way in this case is fear. He will not be able to interfere with anything around him, because then everyone will respect the new ruler. The only virtue that the young man was taught was his father. It is worth remaining impartial in order to finally achieve all your goals. If Alexander had only been interested in the title of a benevolent ruler, he would not have killed his father, thereby overthrowing him so that he would not make any more mistakes. The secretary realizes that this is true. It's been 3 years since the guy ascended the throne, covering his hands with dirt that won't wash off. The young man pacified the barbarians in the north and expanded the borders of the state. He has done too much already at such a young age. The strength and power of the knights has increased, but there are still quite young people who are ready to start a war. His Majesty is content to avoid or simply not pay attention. Responsibilities inevitably increase, but for a certain reason, no one knows what the Empress really thinks about everything that is happening. Perhaps the heroine will take everything in a good way, but with her new, unpredictable character, She may be very offended and understand that this is not for her. After some time, the girl was brought gifts that she did not even expect to receive. Alexander's order was carried out. The stones on the outfit are flawless. They are incredibly expensive considering there are over 600 gems in there. The dress itself is embroidered with gold thread. The maids had never seen anything like this in their lives. It seems like there is so much in it, but in fact it is light, like feathers. The courtiers said that it was Alexander's order who chose this gift. He is trying to surprise a woman, but for some reason in this way. One of the men conveyed everything that the emperor wanted to say. It wasn't much of anything, but it still became no less valuable. The dress cost as much as a castle. Even this information makes the girl shudder, because she would not forgive herself if a drop of sweat or dirt got on him. The servant did not answer and began to rummage in his pocket. A second later, he takes out a note from there, on which something is written in Alexander's handwriting. The man would like to see his wife in the dress he gave her at the next meeting. He would like others to also appreciate the outfit that the beauty received. Virgo sits with her mouth open in surprise. He planned something like this, even if before he didn't care at all about everyone around him, including Robelia. The maids seem to be more delighted than the girl herself. They are truly amazed that the emperor can be such a caring husband. A beautiful outfit is indeed worth a lot, but that doesn't mean it needs to be praised so much. People around simply do not know the whole truth. Sincerity conquers everything. According to his subjects, this happened because the emperor finally noticed something that should have been understood much earlier. The woman smiles easily. In fact, she doesn't care at all, but she understands that she should treat even such statements calmly. The main maid reins in her subordinate. She managed to say something like that so quickly that she didn't think about what would happen next. Virgo is not angry with the girls who serve her. Robelia's influence was insignificant, but they still serve her and care for her. Instead of scolding those who are not to blame for anything, the lady only understands that she is incredibly grateful to them, be that as it may. These feelings towards the subjects are sincere, but they still did not understand what the queen sincerely needs. Such wisdom, or at least understanding, will come much later. But this is not so important, because the heroine has many other concerns. The first and most important of them is a dress that costs as much as one of the castles. This can't help but make you think about what should be done with it. Only recently, a lady had to make a lot of effort to afford to go shopping. The Empress's capabilities are much more extensive. The Emperor also did something similar for a specific purpose. He gave the dress for a reason, but to show off. The young man understands that the girl continues to insist on a divorce, so he is going to shower him with gifts to show his sincere intentions. The thing will fit perfectly on the figure of the main character, even if she does not accept it. It would be better to leave such an outfit for some event. Virgo refuses the gift. She openly declares that she is going to divorce the emperor, so she cannot accept a gift from the man with whom she wants to divorce. The holiday began with snacks. They are placed all over the table to attract the attention of those around them, who were probably waiting for the moment to try everything. The Empress enters the hall. She feels great after being invited to Friday dinner once again. This is not the first time it will take place. Every Friday evening, members of the imperial family, as well as vassals from all over the country, come to dinner, which is organized by the palace. This tradition has been maintained since the time of the third king, but it is impossible to believe that there is still a large event every week that takes the energy of staff and family. Someday, people around will get tired of showing off their wealth, and then they will finally stop. Robelia organized the event perfectly, so that's a big plus. It is in the evenings that the lady is going to make her changes. According to the papers, everything was perfect. The lady was able to cope with all the tasks. There was a limited budget in order to decorate luxuriously and do everything with dignity. Now the red-haired girl is proud of her work like no other. She understands that she did what no one else would have done, not even the concubine. Taking a sip from a glass, the lady listens to more words of flattery about how well she did everything, despite all the problems that she encountered along the way. Turning around, the maiden notices the person she least wanted to see. He smiles, but it makes him feel disgusted. Earl Butlet is a minor character who appears at the very beginning of the novel. He's not the best person to rely on. The girl knows that this young man helped Aisha take away the very place of the Empress that belongs to Robelia. They worked in pairs throughout the book. A smile breaks out on the lady's face, which is extremely difficult to contain. She doesn't know what to say, but the guy immediately notices and asks what he said that was funny. The woman does not hesitate and is not going to choose sweet sayings just to please the Count. There is no need for him to be so sweet and fake smile, as if everything is fine. The words spoken by Batlet do not warm the heroine's soul at all. She understands what is true and what was said for selfish purposes. The young man is outraged. He has not heard of pretense because he is only expressing his admiration and gratitude for the work done. The hero felt a nobility that he had not felt for the past 3 years. Such transformations are truly worthy of admiration. If the guy was so much admired, he could have come and said something about this much earlier, but it is not clear why everything happened so late. The person who should have heard these words has already disappeared. The real Rebelia needed recognition, but never received it. The lady has much more important things to do that do not fit into the category of what is happening around her. It's worth finding someone more friendly. Without having time to say anything or find anyone, the lady stumbles upon Alexander, who is standing in the doorway. He finally arrived at the event, albeit a little late. It is impossible not to admit that the man is truly incredibly handsome. They usually say about such people that they are born once every 100 years, even if this is not entirely true. When the lady read the novel, she could not even think that the handsome man was so handsome, even if his every movement and appearance was clearly described there. It seems that after everything that was heard and done, the lady did not fully appreciate her husband. He is much more resourceful than he seems at first glance. Aisha appears at the door, holding her dress and running to the meeting, shouting Alexander's name, while smiling as if it were her husband. The woman grabs the boy's shoulder, talking about how much she missed him. It's a little strange in front of everyone's eyes, but still the brunette is now the main character of the story. The lady turns half a turn and looks at the red-haired woman for just a few seconds. It immediately becomes clear what exactly she is saying. Smiling, the brunette says that she was looking forward to the dinner party. She always wants to dine with the king and queen. It doesn't matter how often dinner happens, because it is a time and place where the whole family gets together and spends time side by side. The girl decided to play family, but this is not true. Even Alex himself asked the concubine to be a little more careful with what she said. The woman tries to remain silent, but it is immediately clear that this is a cheap provocation. The Virgin is trying to hurt Rebelia, but it won't work, because she is not a real heroine. There is no time to pay attention to such pathetic antics. The llama moves closer to Marquis Wilhelm, who is standing very close, drinking wine. Without even allowing him to say anything, the Empress sharply knocks over the glass of liquid, which ends up on the interlocutor's face and clothes. Her Majesty the Empress just smiles as if nothing had happened. He will talk as if he doesn't understand what he just did, because the glass slipped out of her hand. The hands again don't obey, so the queen swings her arms. She understands perfectly well what exactly she is going to do, because she knows the whole truth about the person. The blow is loud and sharp. People around notice how a hand touches the cheek of the girl's interlocutor with a clap. The whole problem was that the lady heard something nasty. The man has a wife and children, but he continues to walk around and frighten the maids by harassing them. The maid girl, almost crying, talks about how scared she is. The Marquis sends letters and comes home personally, leaving no choice, thereby frightening her even more. The Empress freezes. She never expected to hear such a name, although this old man was a relatively vile person, judging by the plot of the book. Rumors of the guy touching young girls continued, but even his wife was literally sold, not married off. The Marquise did not want this. The girl who got hurt asks if she should quit and leave. The young man can no longer be stopped, given his rather high status, which should not be overlooked. Wilhelm is 30 years older than the lady with whom he wanted to start a relationship. He didn't care at all, so the heroine decided that she would also be merciless. The conversation made Rebelia incredibly angry. She already knows that in the book, something similar happened about 3 years ago with one of the maids, so she tries not to worry and is determined to take revenge. Sighing, the lady opens her eyes, in which a determined light shines. It's immediately clear what exactly needs to be done, so that's exactly what happened at Friday dinner. Remembering everything that happened, as well as the merits of the Marquis, the young lady once again raises her hand to strike again, making it clear that there will be no mercy. Rebelia understands perfectly well that this is the best way to stop the old man, and no one in the hall will stop her. The only person who has such authority is the husband. Of course, the emperor, listening to his subjects, tries to stop the woman, but in order to have time to do everything, she kicks her between the legs. The last gift has been delivered, so the Marquis falls, screaming, onto the carpet on which he is rolling, clutching at that very spot. The woman did everything she could, although even so, she understood that she needed to practice her accuracy. This will be done next time. The man frowns. He doesn't know what to say, especially noticing the look on the girl's face that doesn't regret anything. The heroine did all this consciously. She deliberately dealt with the trash in front of everyone in order to announce that she was divorcing a guy who, most likely, did not suspect anything. It's strange to do something nice for Aisha, who is standing on the sidelines, but at this stage of the plan, it's not the most important thing. It turned out that she was just as surprised as everyone else. Instead of letting the girl say something or start screaming, the brunette calmly asks why the lady started all this confusion. The young man calls all the doctors to help the Empress. Let's just hope he's not trying to make her feel ashamed of what he did. Still, not intending to give up, the girl asks about Marquis Wilhelm. At this stage, he needs a doctor much more because he has already lost consciousness. Without answering anything, the guy remains to control how the doctor bandages his wife's hand. For some reason, he finds it necessary to follow her everywhere. The Emperor did not reprimand the lady for that sudden act, as if she had not even done anything. He stubbornly pretends that nothing is happening. The brunette listens to the doctor's words that his hand is almost healthy. You need to do everything possible to heal the wound as quickly as possible. The girl's face reveals all her thoughts. She does not understand what exactly the young man is up to, and this worries her incredibly. She doesn't know what to say. At first, the handsome man stands frowning, but then a smile appears on his face, which pleasantly stretches his lips into a half arch. He seems to be in a good mood. The red-haired girl turns away sharply, trying not to blush so much. It's bad that the lady didn't manage to anger the Emperor with her act, because it was all in vain. A whisper begins around and does not subside. People are discussing the couple and how usually Kostya only cares about her concubine, but not about her wife, which surprises everyone. No one knows what happened between them that suddenly changed their minds so dramatically. I want to scream in protest because nothing happened. The girl, on the contrary, tried to do everything to make him hate his wife, who would disgrace him so much. It is clear that the attempt was a failure. The young man answers the first question posed. He can't let the girl host the dinner party because she got hurt. She needs rest. In any case, dinner will last until late. Then the guy turns to his wife, asking if she's hungry, as if he cares. Putting his hand on his beloved's shoulder, the man gently helps her to stand up. He understands that it's a little difficult for her, but he promises that everything will be okay. Turning to look at the crowd before following her husband, the lady notices someone's gaze. The brunette glares at the couple, almost crying. The lady looks worried, and everyone around is talking about what happened. Already in the morning, an article about Alexander's relationship will appear in all newspapers, as if this is his little plan. He is worried about public opinion because of the proposed divorce. It's a little awkward knowing that the brunette is making such sacrifices, but it's even more awkward walking next to him after he ignored Robelia. Sitting down at the table, the hero asks to enjoy dinner. It is carried out for people on a voluntary basis so that they feel safe. According to the Emperor, they did not prepare, but if this is what an event that happens every Friday looks like, it's scary to imagine all the others. Sighing, the girl decides not to think about it. Even evil spirits eat, and even if she is a villain, she can eat calmly because she feels hungry. Smiling at the Empress, the young man says that she needs to quickly refresh herself. During the day, she spent quite a lot of energy, which was not restored. The concubine, who is already accustomed to ruining everything, intervenes in the conversation. She compliments the dress, noting that it is from the new collection of the Charlotte and Collins boutique. The thing is very suitable, but the woman also heard that the beauty bought 14 dresses there. The design is chic, so this is not surprising at all. Virgo prefers something more modest, but is sincerely jealous of the queen. Such a scheme and words do not work, but only Robelia seems so. The original storyline mentioned how Aisha was poor and therefore frugal. She behaved the same way when she saw a lady in a sable coat at the evening. The lady noticed that she was ashamed to ask for expensive things. A coat of rabbit or squirrel fur would have been sufficient, even if the Emperor bought more expensive items. It seemed that generosity was arrogant. After such words, the lady usually feels embarrassed at how simple she is, but noble people never spared their admiration for her. When the heroine read the book, this behavior seemed strange to her, although it seemed that she had done this on purpose. Even now, Isha plays to the audience, batting her eyes. The brunette behaves as if she forgot that she was going to meet with the chief designer from that same company. She just didn't get anything. Ignoring his chosen one, the young man asks the queen if she tried on the dress that her husband gave her yesterday. He knows what to say. The hero knew that this would definitely not be enough for such a respectable person as his wife. She deserves only the best. The red-haired woman freezes, trying to tell the man to shut up with her gaze. He shouldn't have mentioned something like that in front of everyone. The young man cares about the public. He wants everyone to believe him, despite the way he acts. It is worth making sure that no one talks about gifts. Such small gifts are not suitable for a queen. It would be much better to receive one castle or an entire city, which would be laid at her feet. Being an emperor, the girl would consider such words inappropriate, but instead the brunette smiles, as if he even liked what was said. Extending his hand to the maiden, the hero says that even a whole city will not be enough. An entire empire cannot compare to a wife, and he cannot bestow her. Robelia is the foundation of this empire and the only empress for the king. She really means quite a lot. Virgo raises her eyebrow. She would like to jump up and start screaming, but she can't allow herself to start behaving like that. People would be shocked by such a display of emotion. The heroine is going to get a divorce and not spend the imperial treasury. All efforts will be pointless if the young man continues to pay off with expensive things. A brunette breaks into the conversation. According to her, she does not need to give such expensive clothes because the value of a person does not change depending on the clothes. If His Majesty the Emperor is next to the concubine, a modest outfit will be enough for her, which will seem much better. The lady doesn't have a fortune to be treated well, but that doesn't mean anything. The people around are silent in surprise. It seems this is all due to the character's frugality. Aisha is still young, but it seemed to the girl that she was not stupid. Apparently she was nervous because Castia suddenly turned his attention to his wife. The main thing is to choose the right words, but this is done by the emperor, who is surprised by the words about the lack of wealth. The young man allocated a budget worthy of his position in the empire. The woman tries to say something, but they don't let her. Failure to recognize wealth is a complete disrespect for those who truly have nothing. The one who understands who she is must fulfill her duties to the people. Modesty is important, but it is not the only virtue of the imperial family. Aisha has no right to undermine the authority of the imperial family in the eyes of the people of the empire. She doesn't know what to say, so she just makes an awkward hum. Virgo pretends that she understands everything, but it still seems that this will not change anything. She will continue to behave this way. Alexander never said anything like that to the girl in the original. Judging by the atmosphere in the hall, not only the Empress is surprised, which means that she is far from her goal. If you think about it like that, the nobles have their own principles. They simply behave as befits authoritative people while trying not to change anything much. The young man changes the subject. He's got so many people in the room, so he's looking for someone to join him for a drink. The hero himself started this battle, so now it is clear that the girl has no right to lose. She begins to express her no, finding fault with literally everything. Whispers begin to creep in from all sides almost instantly. The Empress used to be kind, but now everything has changed. She failed to take care of her people. The concubine is not very happy with all this, but it seems that Robelia doesn't care. She starts eating out of control, not following any rules. The woman does not react at all, even if she understands that the queen hears everything. In Korea, if someone is hungry, they usually eat without any delay, so one wonders why it's not the same here. The dinner party ended on such a strange note. After this gathering, nothing happened for some time, allowing everyone to breathe out calmly. All this was until an invitation came to the castle. The paper said, Duchess Seliman, who invited the lady to a meeting. This is the first time the lady has heard about the woman, because it seems she was not mentioned in the original. In the documents that the heroine found about Robelia, there was no mention of Seliman, which means she is not a relative. The only option that remains is that the Duchess is some kind of friend of a woman who was not mentioned in any chapter. This is not surprising, since Robelia is a minor character. The plot would not mention a person who is so far from the main plot and heroes. If, after all, the Duchess is a friend, then it will be strange. Robelia's character has changed a lot, however. If the lady ignores the letter, she will be mistaken for crazy. The goal remains exactly the same as before. The heroine wants a divorce most of all, and before anyone burns her, we need to come up with some option. Even if the Duchess is not a friend, the girl is filled with curiosity. It's better to get out somewhere than to sit within four walls. For now, the goal remains divorce. It is necessary to obtain as much information as possible. One could find out by reading books in the library or asking the maids, which is what the maiden did. A better option is to go to a ladies' tea party, because this is one of the best places to get the information you need. The invitation was accepted, so the heroine got ready and went to the event. She enters the hall, where she is already greeted. People outside the palace are a little different. This is the first time for the new Robelia to meet people other than the designers who came. Duchess Solomon, judging by her title, is the most powerful among the rest. A good idea is to find out more about her. It would be great to know whether she is an enemy or a friend to the queen. Everyone compliments, but the red-haired woman wonders who the lady is who is lingering. The brunette laughs, saying that the dress is truly luxurious. Judging by their facial expressions and statements, they are still not on friendly terms. Among the imperial nobility, talking about money is considered vulgar. Even at celebrations, it is taboo. The same applies to conversations about how much clothes cost and what they look like. Since the lady dared to say about luxury, it means only one thing. It's impossible for a noble lady to not know basic etiquette, but it turns out it's true. It's strange that a woman would behave this way. Even if the empire is a place where real power is much more important, and even if there is nothing valuable except the name of the Duke of Blanchet, the question becomes why no one respects Robelia so much. Surely each of those present considers the Empress to be someone who is not worthy of aristocratic society, sort of like someone who doesn't get attention. There's just one catch: Robelia isn't real. The woman smiles, saying she learned it from Winston the Mystic. He offered many designs of dresses. The Virgin did not know what to do, but in the end, she could only choose one of them. Even the Duchess would also like to fit into this place, but unfortunately, she doesn't fit in. The brunette opens her mouth in surprise. All the emotions are written on her face, which even makes you laugh a little. The woman says she has to go and runs away. The Empress is wearing a dress with an individual design from Mr., which the lady chose by chance in the morning. If Solomon had continued to sit still, she would have lost what was left of her dignity, so if you think about it, she did the right thing. There are still 2 empty spaces left, but after a minute, everything becomes clear. Aisha appeared at the door, smiling and asking for forgiveness for being late. The girl notices the Empress. She comes closer, smiling again and greeting her friend. She didn't expect to meet her at the meeting. The red-haired girl chuckles and doesn't answer. All the people around are trying to ignore her, but for some reason they don't do that to a young girl. According to etiquette, if a person of higher status is sitting at the table, newcomers, once seated at the table, usually do not get up again. They might feel awkward, that's why it works that way. This should be so, since noble ladies know how to behave, but as a result, each of them continues to stubbornly ignore etiquette. The organizers deliberately seated the Empress and concubine opposite each other, knowing that they did not get along. Now it's clear why Solomon invited the queen to the event. She needs to raise Aisha's influence. It seems that the brunette herself asked for this favor. Everything is specially organized, just so that the lady can stroke her ego. In this case, there is no point in staying at the tea party. The woman gets up from her seat and overturns the tea set along with the table. The overturned service fits exactly the upside-down manners of this mansion. People have no right to behave like this. Everyone immediately starts apologizing. This makes it clear that Aisha is behind everything, so the Empress turns to her. The concubine needs to find the right words to say what she thinks. She asks for forgiveness, citing as an argument that she recently arrived in the empire. The girl is not yet accustomed to local customs, so she behaves this way. The only annoying thing is how the girl continues to make excuses. The heroine could not even think that she would have to bow her head to someone she ignored. This is why trembling is noticeable throughout the body. The tea party without tea was not a success, so the Empress is about to leave. In the future, everyone should watch their language and what they say in front of a girl. The brunette blushes. She never raises her head, not daring to look at her rival or say anything in parting. The first thing Aisha did was go to the king. She recounted everything as it happened, but only received a question about why she couldn't figure it out herself. The emperor should not interfere in other people's affairs. The girl bows her head, asking if the man was upset by his behavior. The heroine upset her husband by the fact that she could not get along in the empire in which she arrived and was recently recognized. The lady did not upset anyone, but, continuing to press for pity, she notices the fact that she still thought that the young man was too busy for such a thing. Knowing this, the heroine allowed such useless nonsense. This can't help but irritate, but you don't want to shout back so as not to spoil the mood further. The brunette asks the lady what he should do. Not noticing the hidden smile, Alexander listens to the fact that her worries are not worth attention. After the tea party ended, the rest of the ladies insulted the queen. This was not an isolated incident, just from Solomon. What the Empress did that time surprised even Castia herself. Before this, she behaved more reservedly, like a normal person. If Isha herself speaks, then the Empress will not listen. The husband should talk to his wife himself, because Robelia will accept the words much better. After all that was said, the brunette still listened to the girl's words and went there to deal with the young lady's antics. Aisha did not live up to Alex's expectations at all. She is not as naive as she wants to seem at first glance. She always speaks in a veiled manner, but in the end she reveals her true intentions. That is why the lady wants the young man to deal with Robelia on his own. The girl will get what she expects. It is immediately clear that the heroine does not have a drop of innocence and good nature, which she tries to show. The virgin is the same as the emperor, because she hides her dirty eye behind a beautiful appearance. If Castia had been naive and kind, he would have hated his wife. She is not so disgusting, since the emperor seated her in the place of the empress. Everything is fine, except that lately the concubine has become more demanding, and this is annoying. The reason itself comes to light. Stretching out his hand, the young man does not have time to knock properly, when his wife, who looks formidable, opens the door for him. Robelia asks what was needed, but still lets her husband into his chambers. He had not been in her room for more than a month, realizing that everything seemed strange. Asking the same question again, Castia stands her ground. The man avoided her for 2 weeks, even when she begged for a meeting, but now he has changed his mind. She wonders what the emperor needed, since he came running so quickly in the middle of the night, as if nothing had happened. Spouses should not have reasons for meeting, but the fact that a young man allows this after talking about divorce simply blows away. The beauty's facial expression is not the same as usual. The hero did not often see his wife like this, because usually she was more alarmed or nervous, gloomy. Now everything has changed. The red-haired girl stands and frowns, as if ready to run and fight if necessary. She has changed. At first, it seemed to Alexander that his wife was trying to attract attention, but the more he watched her, the more he realized that this was absolutely not the case. The woman seemed to become a different person. Her interests and goals changed, which she built anew, looking for new reasons for living. The girl became more demanding. Previously, Robelia always tried to imitate Aisha, and when the two wives were together, they whispered behind their backs that the emperor was not wasting money on the red-haired woman. The man didn't even think that his wife could be like that. She has definitely become a completely different person, although, on the other hand, you can't help but like it. They were together for 3 years, and somehow each time the virgin reveals a new side, like a book with an expanded plot. The young man came so suddenly in the middle of the night that the lady thought it was something important. It turned out that he was just talking about the outfit. The girl is getting ready to sleep, but she is again told that she has definitely become better. This is not a compliment, because the heroine did not change for her husband, who in the end did nothing. The man himself knows everything that they are trying to tell him. The heroine herself was just recently screaming about the divorce she was striving for so much, but now she suddenly changed. Robelia blushed deeply, which even her husband noticed. She tries to hide it, but the butterflies in her stomach serve as further confirmation of the reality that has become what is known. Trying to come up with a reason why suddenly the face looked like the color of a red tomato, only because of the poor lighting, which in the end did everything to ruin the mood. The young man covers his lips with his hand, trying not to show a smile. He didn't even think that he would be so carried away by what was happening around him. Lately, Robelia's reaction has been like a disheveled cat with its mouth open. A funny sight that definitely deserves a little recognition. Previously, the lady looked more like a puppet than a living person. As soon as you said a word, you would get 2 in response. Now she's real. The young man gets down to business. As much as he liked the games, he came on business, and it was all because of the dinner party and what had happened at it. This behavior made the young man a little nervous. He apologizes for putting the beauty in such an uncomfortable position, but it's not that important. Still, the lady helped get rid of Marquis Wilhelm, so all that remains is to thank her for that. She deserves recognition. The hero, as it turned out, tried to increase taxes, thereby interfering with the succession to the throne of the Kingdom of Rudikon. It is illegal. Evidence in the form of taxes and military materials was also discovered. There was a week left before the meeting between the Marquis and King Rudikon, and the man even hired an assassin to scare him and wound him. As a result, his wife beat him to it. If the king were to pursue him, the people on the Marquis's side would make a fuss. It so happened that Robelia attracted all the attention with her prank, and in the end, nothing helped her. For some reason, the young man believes that the beauty helped him, because the next day all the headlines were full of news about a love triangle and the Marquis's hospitalization for 8 weeks. In any case, it was the fault of the Empress, and therefore the whole family. The young man sent all the doctors to help, but 8 weeks is just enough to investigate illegal actions. The woman herself wanted to get rid of Wilhelm. She knows why she did this, just like her husband. The Marquis is known for his adventures. In the palace, a lady, and not even one, harbors a grudge against him, realizing what exactly he did. He and the girl could be good partners. Relations in the eyes of society are quite dry, and few people expect such a union. This way, you can take advantage of the situation. It's actually not so bad after Friday dinner. The offer will be rejected because you don't want to have anything to do with someone who will soon become a stranger. Since the lady thinks so, then no one will go against her will. But this is only now, because at any time this can change. Alexander may even have to change in order to get his wife back, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. The young man simply does not know how to lose. He thinks it's a race, but there's no point in saying something so meaningless. At this rate, they will never divorce, but it is worth seeing what happens in the future. One of them will definitely be able to win. You will have to fight for this victory. Nobody can win as easily as they want, so this is the end of the conversation. They will bite for the win, and the lady has sharp teeth. She will be the one who wins her husband first by escaping from the castle. The hand rises on its own and stretches forward. For some reason, the man suddenly wanted to touch the girl who was standing just a step away from him. Touching his face with his palm, the man examines his wife. He wants to take possession of Robelia so that she becomes only his, but this feeling is too strange. A strong desire does not leave the body and blood. The handsome man cannot even fully understand what exactly he wants, but continues to stretch forward. Rounded eyes, slightly pink ears, and slightly parted lips seem to beckon, asking to be touched. It is difficult to resist such an impulse, especially since he does not know how the beauty will behave if he tells her about his desire. Desire becomes increasingly difficult to contain. Alexander tries to do something, but he himself reaches out with his lips to the girl's face. The next second there is a slight cry. The lady threw a pillow at her husband so that he would move as far away from her as possible. The woman blushes again, but even more than before. She screams so loudly that the room shakes. What the man was trying to do seems absurd. The Virgin beat the young man with a pillow, throwing him out the door. They will divorce very soon, so this is not acceptable. You should not cross the line of what is permitted. The beauty is outraged by this behavior. The hero is completely out of his mind, as if he himself does not understand how strange it is to try to do something like this. He dared to kiss the man the brunette was about to divorce. They weren't ready for this, but he climbed forward anyway. A person like Alexander cannot be sincere towards Robelia. For Alexander, no one exists, except perhaps Aisha, because they are the main characters of the novel. In 3 years, the emperor had not even looked at Robelia once, so it was impossible for him to be sincere about anything. Trying to kiss someone you don't like at all seems more than absurd. Surely many girls shed tears because of this man. For some reason, the lady got so nervous when they tried to seduce her. This is quite logical, because Robelia has never had a relationship. At night, sleep never came. The girl could not come to terms with the fact that she could not stop thinking about the ridiculous accident. The girl was so scared that she almost immediately hit and kicked her husband out before she realized what had happened. There must be a law and punishment for harm done to the emperor. If a man wants to punish a woman, she won't even be able to do anything. Considering he still hasn't done anything, that doesn't mean she can get away with it. There are other concerns too. Since the Empress manages the affairs of the palace, as well as supporting cultural development, the welfare of the commoners and charity, diplomacy with other countries also lies on the shoulders of the Virgin. This cannot be called an insignificant responsibility, since it is quite labor-intensive work, but there are issues that cannot be resolved. These duties should be shared between the concubine and the Empress, but Aisha is exempt since she has recently arrived. More than 6 months have passed. If you think so, then Robelia herself recently came into this world from her own. For some reason, everyone ignores her importance in the empire, as if it were a given. The servants who are nearby notice that Her Majesty does not look well. She can leave her affairs to them. Aisha is doing nothing special as usual. Together with the other ladies, they discuss her hair and how Alexander likes it. Conversations about skin and hair are interrupted by a knock, and then a loud stomp, after which the door opens. Robelia arrived at the estate quite suddenly. even if everyone knows that during the day, she is usually busy working from morning to night. The maiden is immersed in work, and Aisha is discussing hairstyles and the silkiness of her hair with the maids. She throws a stack of papers on the table. It's time to stop having fun and do something normal. The girl will not rest on a regular basis. After the lady dumped all the work on Aisha, who did not give consent, she finally had time for herself and tea. The girl, on the contrary, shook her head from side to side because she didn't know how to do something and asked for at least another week to prepare. Of course, no one gave her anything. The woman didn't want anyone to feed her with promises for another whole week. No excuses will be accepted. No longer holding out hope of being saved, the lady uses her last resort. You need to ask Alexander, because his order was that the lady should not work. Usually the emperor's words are higher than the empress's, but as we know, such matters are not his job. This needed to be understood at least 6 months in advance. This is how the situation ended. Of course, not everything went smoothly, but in any case it ended well. The whole problem was that the concubine did not do her job properly. The palace is a mechanism that is connected to every detail, so after 3 days, everything began to fall apart. The nobles came running to beg the girl to return, because nothing in the palace was working properly. No one ever appreciated Robelia's hard work, but everyone accepted the point and came running to beg for mercy. It is not easy for a woman to play the role of a villain, but there is no other choice. If she were kind, everything would collapse before it even began. Either way, nothing can be done. So the lady raises her voice, asking the nobles how they dare to come with such a request. The red-haired woman has already repeatedly said that she is going to work only under her own conditions, and even better, never at all. The concubine and her maids must themselves resolve the situation that has developed. In any case, they will have no choice. As it turns out, the maids are doing everything they can to help their mistress, but this is not enough. Whatever they try to do, if Aisha doesn't know anything, it won't work. Everyone around is talking too much, so the maiden orders everyone to leave. She doesn't want to hear anything anymore, given everything that's going on. The heroine scared everyone off even more and continued her strike, but it seems that those who left went to ask the king for help. He asks his wife to get back to her work. He has to take on Aisha's mistakes and do the training, which is a bit of a hindrance. If they work in pairs, the load will be significantly reduced, but so far, this is not quite what the heroine needs. The guy talks about Aisha in a respectful tone, calling her a queen, so that makes everything worse. The situation only got worse. The young man does not ask for forgiveness, but is ready to swear on his name that he will no longer allow any problems to interfere. The hero has no right to force the heroine to conduct the affairs of the palace, but asks for a favor. The girl didn't think that an acquaintance could be so sincere. She, of course, doesn't care about apologies and how hard she knows, because she feels sorry for those who suffer from conflicts. Brunette said he would do everything possible to ensure that such a situation never happens again. He's trying to change something. In this case, if everything works, you will have to write a receipt. The girl is quite firm in her intentions. The young man is obliged to train his concubine and distribute responsibilities, but if they fail to do so, they will face a quick divorce. Again, the conversation returns to normal. In the end, he is not going to break the rules and asks to bring paper and pen. The issue would have been resolved long ago if the acquaintance had agreed to the divorce and consent to make Aisha the only empress. For some reason, the whole process was very complicated. But in the end, the young man, of course, fulfilled his promise, knowing why he was doing it. 5 teachers were assigned to Aisha, who, starting after breakfast and ending before dinner, forced her to study. At that time, the lady did all the work as usual. After this, the queen cannot even be called a villain. She spent all day and night trying to achieve her goal. As soon as things got better, the maids began to spread rumors about how much His Majesty admired his wife. After several days, it became known that the Empress had hired an expert in administrative affairs. Everyone heard that it was interrupted. A total of 3 people are involved. One of them is the officer in charge of managing the imperial palace, the person in charge of charity, and also the person in charge of supporting culture. They are doing a great job, which obviously won't be a problem anymore. Women admired the queen because she was also modest. One of her subordinates visited Robelia to tell her everything, but she only said that she was not doing all this in order to be praised in any way. The next day, Aisha arranged an evening with her acquaintances from the aristocracy. She brought more than 4,000 beautifully colored flowers. According to the young lady, they were all just a gift from her beloved emperor, who cared so much for his wife. Earl Drape, who was also present at the council, recalls how terrible Alexander was at the council meeting. Kindness was caused by boundless love, but in reality, things are much different. A man has a good soul, but only for the ladies he respects, because the man has amazed countless people with his capriciousness. A couple of weeks ago, the first example was the Earl of Clexton. The Empress knows nothing about politics, so she was not offended. The Emperor tirelessly sorts out affairs in the empire, which helps them all live. One of the ladies reminds that Aisha is already starting to study. The girl can't help much, so she's trying to study in order to finally become useful in the castle and for her husband. The Emperor appreciates the girl, but she believes that she is just studying without stopping. Pretending that she feels bad, Isha presses for pity. The girl apologizes for appearing in front of everyone else in such an image. She never wanted to make that impression. You definitely need to help in your work, even if the training is too difficult. Her Majesty doesn't like it either. People around begin to be indignant. The Empress placed too much on the shoulders of the young lady, who had not done anything wrong. She just recently arrived in the empire. Smiling, the lady tries to continue her show. She wants to become as educated as Rebelia. After the words have been spoken, the lady quietly hides her intentions. The smile no longer seems friendly. Several experts in managing palace affairs were hired for the lady, and the heroine can only try to be more educated. This decision was not easy for the Empress, and she probably paid a lot of money to make it work. The woman shelled out about 5 million gold. Drape knew that the lady lived in grand style, but no one knew to that extent. After what happened at the ball, it is immediately clear that Rebelia is clearly not herself. She behaves in a similar way, pretending that everything is fine. The ladies do not understand what it means to be rational in politics, but one of them suggests that the Count go and tell this to the Emperor and his wife. The man is the only one who sees the Emperor more often than everyone else in the room. The Count might do him a favor by talking. The blonde begins to stutter. In his opinion, he cannot afford such things, because he only recently arrived in the Empire. The woman begs the Count to talk to His Majesty. This could help, especially since the lady would take all the anger on herself. The girl will do everything possible to help him, and in turn, the young man agrees to do everything as needed. Aisha smiles, saying that the man is the best in the world, realizing that the whole plan worked. It was pretty easy to make it all happen. That's why the lady loves young men who don't know anything. Grown-up ladies would never react to this so emotionally. For a young guy who is infatuated with young ladies, it is quite normal to act in the least rational way. That's how he feels. As expected, the heroine perfectly planned how she would behave in the future. It will be as easy as shelling pears. Conversation should be the agenda of the meeting. The young man does not want to raise the topic, but he understands that he has already promised, so he cannot ignore it. Rebelia seems the most absurd. In addition to all this, she constantly does what she wants. The Empress cannot be such a vicious and stupid woman. The woman dared to make the noble Empress Aisha cry. Her Majesty is the most suitable person for this position, and here we can agree without any objections. As a young man who cares about the fate of the Empire, the young man simply has to do something. The meeting is just about to begin, but the Count speaks first. Before everything starts, he would like to say something. A man sitting at the next table calls out to the Count. Drape should have asked his permission before saying anything. The young man doesn't like this. He is no longer a child who listens to everything his uncle says, and he will show everyone who he is. The young man and 7 other young aristocrats decided to talk about something important regarding Empress Aisha. Marquis Jocko should not even interfere, because it will be much easier to understand what is happening and what is so important as soon as everything is visible. The agenda is the atrocities of the Empress, who behaves like this. This began to happen in this form only recently. The young man smiles, as if giving a sign of what can be done. His Majesty is interested, which means it's a good sign. The blonde smiles. He promises to explain everything in detail before they start the agenda. First, a study was conducted. Surely the old people around are jealous of the guy's courage, so they whisper. Now he is in a low position, but if his efforts are recognized, everything will change. His Majesty smiled throughout the entire speech, and after that he asked whether this was the Count's opinion, or whether someone had advised him. Having perked up, the hero says that this is exactly his opinion, and also 6 other young aristocrats who are also there. It's good that there are only 7 idiots in the room who don't know how to do their job. They talk about the Queen's atrocities, but no one knows why she did what she did. If the guy's head on his shoulders is not just a decoration, he is advised to read the stack of documents that the secretary managed to bring. The first sheet of paper turned out to be accusations against Marquis Wilhelm of exporting military weapons and embezzlement of taxes. The Marquis almost fled to the kingdom of Rudikon, and after the Empress found out, she risked her reputation to stop him. The man did this only out of good intentions. The beauty did not want to do anything bad, but only wanted to help. Trying to say something, the young man reminds them that they hired outsiders to run the palace. There was chaos when Aisha was in charge, so this was also the right decision. The queen also needs days of rest or other reasons, and when she's unable to work, everything goes awry. To correct the situation in the palace, the woman involved other people who were incredibly helpful. It was much more important to get things in order than to worry about money and other people who, in the end, did not make a single mistake. Now there's only one problem left. 7 people who are opposed to the Empress. The man needs to take action. Aisha used 7 people to start a rebellion against the Empress, but she doesn't even expect too much. They have influence in society, but not that much. What happened to Count Clexton should not happen again, because each of the people gathered will do everything they ask. The maid interrupts the maiden's thoughts. It is clear from her that something is wrong, because she has become thoughtful, as if something is bothering her. Trying to lie, the lady says that His Majesty has not come to her for some time. He used to come often and treat me well, but everything has changed. Even when the young man was very busy, he still found time to visit his concubine. We need help with something. One of my friends offers to become a goddess. She is truly the one who brought change to His Majesty's life. Virgo is the only one who is capable of this. The girl could bring something new to the empire, as if knowledge from another world, even if only in this way. For some reason, the beauty herself didn't even think about this. This is a job that you want to do without any questions. Robelia will definitely not be able to do this, no matter how hard she tries. Come October, when the wheat turns golden and the robins begin to build their nests, the lady takes charge of the harvest season. The woman hopes that everyone will come to the celebration and see with their own eyes the girl's first steps as the goddess of a new culture. There was definitely nothing like this in the original plot. Even if the lady had read, she definitely would not have forgotten. The redhead frowned slightly. It is difficult for her to understand everything that the Virgin wants to do, but one thing is clear. She wants to get in the way. Perhaps I should have been stricter with Aisha. She turned a blind eye to her antics, but now it all comes back sideways. The lady began to meet with the Emperor even more often. They almost always met simply by chance. The main characters of the novel do everything to piss off the girl. The lady has received an invitation, and to find out what Aisha is up to, she will go there. The woman comes out after her exit has been announced. The dress in snow white and pinkish shades highlights the skin. Wearing such a short dress is a bold step, especially in such an empire, because most would consider it frivolous. In the empire, people wear long dresses that cover their ankles, even when it's hot summer outside. There's no point in thinking about it. The heroine needs to restore her influence in the empire, so she needs to stand out. There is no need to worry about what the nobles will think, because none of them will dare to discuss the Empress. The only problem is Robelia. The girl is precisely the problem, because she always attracts everyone's attention, and even the attention of Alexander. This time the girl will also dress up and stand out from the crowd, wearing a luxurious dress with jewelry. Until recently, Robelia tried to be modest and not stand out. Whatever she does, Aisha will be the center of attention today. About to start introducing herself, the lady notices something in the hall, trying to stop the trembling in her hands. She apologizes because it's her first time speaking. Robelia again became that person who spent absolutely everything. The woman came in a provocative dress with open legs. The concubine's dress does not stand out at all, no matter how short it ends up being. It's like nothing is working. Virgo asks the guest to calm down. She crosses her legs, asking them to let the girl say at least a word. Otherwise, she's worried. The feeling of discomfort is the worst, so it would be better for the brunette to pull herself together and do what is required of her. The lady tries to continue, but falters again when she sees Alex trying to get his wife to cover her legs, and she refuses. According to the heroine, she is not cold at all, so she doesn't see any point in doing this. The woman is trying to force herself to relax. She clenches her teeth forcefully, realizing that she shouldn't worry about it. Still, the brunette is the most important person at the event, so she is going to tell everyone about what a smartphone is. Previously, the girl lived in Korea, and there such a thing was irreplaceable. There were many functions in one brick with buttons. The inhabitants of the empire, of course, became interested in this, because they had never seen such a powerful thing. Each of them would happily purchase such a thing. Virgo must be able to make a smartphone, because she wouldn't tell us if she didn't know how. Aisha doesn't understand how everything turned this way. She thought there would be enough stories, so she confesses. A woman is a goddess and should be able to do everything. According to her, she was not a professor, but just a student. The only fact that was not taken into account was that the concept of a university was different for the people of the empire. This means that a person will devote his life to study and knowledge. There are few people among the nobility who studied there, and this is not just an ordinary stage of growing up, as in Korea. In the eyes of others, the mention of university means that a virgin should be able to do smartphone-like things. She's in a panic. Considering that even the emperor has arrived, the best thing to do is to pacify the aristocrats and let the maiden lead the way. Robelia does just that. The woman frowns. The friend was definitely up to something, since she came to pretend to be kind. She was the one who initially pushed the lady to take this step. You can't remain a laughing stock, so the queen asks the servants to bring the next lot, to which they quietly assure that the preparations are not over yet. The heroine does not want to listen. She addresses the guests again. As a sign of respect, the lady prepared dishes from all over the world. New dishes made from recipes from people from other countries will be a hit, but Robelia still doesn't feel any sympathy. A buffet was prepared in the kitchen. Tables, everyone could find a dish to their liking, and also drank as much as they could fit. The woman is sure that everything is going well. After all, after the presentation, she is also going to tell a few stories, but people begin to be indignant. They didn't like the food. Robelia also decides to try the masterpiece that is ready, and realizes that everything is perfectly prepared. This is ideal. The choice of food spoiled the atmosphere a bit. Apparently, the people of the empire did not like rice dumplings and kimchi. Even when the lady was in Korea, foreigners did not like this. All this will be thrown away, which means a waste of time. The brunette is almost shaking. She should be the center of attention, but for some reason, this is not happening. She doesn't know what to do next. By the way, the Empress comes into play. She claps her hands to get everyone's attention, happy that everyone has come. Any event in the empire also belongs to the queen, so she prepares a simple snack from the dishes that Aisha prepared. People are skeptical about the claims. They don't know what to say because they don't like it. The emperor comes forward, asking permission to try. Be that as it may, the wife's dish will not be as disgusting as at the very beginning. The words confuse the concubine. There is no reason to refuse a young man, but such a bad attitude can ruin the impression of the food. This is not so, because His Majesty has the courage to taste everything that is prepared. He is told to do as he knows. Passing by, the young man says that Robelia has again become the same as she was before. This is good news. Despite her husband's words, the heroine is a little nervous. The empire did not have even half of the necessary ingredients, which had to be changed. Considering the taste preferences of everyone around, this could be a failure, however, it was not to be. Alexander says in surprise that the taste is not bad. The spiciness is washed away with water. The perfect combination of pickled vegetables and bacon and cheese are perfect. The stickiness lingers a bit on your teeth, but the crunchy flavor makes up for the sensation. The lady frowns, but silently thanks her past self for being addicted to watching mukbang videos on YouTube. Apparently, the guy liked the kimchi fried rice and kimchi pancakes. This cannot but rejoice under such circumstances. There is no soy sauce, so salt helped. There was rice, but the queen decided to cook it in a special way. There is no limit to joy. People ask for more because it tastes good, or because they are not just too hungry. The situation ended well, but Aisha left in the middle of the event, so the lady ended it herself. Perhaps the girl didn't even think about the consequences that would happen after leaving. In any case, there is something more important, because the heroine does not know what Alexander is planning. The maiden ended the meeting quite successfully, helping the others, but this did not mean that the emperor should have been called to escort the queen to her chambers. The brunette still wants the empress to help, but at the same time, everything he does is definitely not for the sake of a goal that, in principle, does not exist. Nobody knew that the girl had such talent. It turned out that she was interested in this kind of thing even before her marriage. The brunette smiles. He too was not aware of this fact, but you can see from his face that he definitely liked it. The hero is strange. They are in the middle of the plot, and the lady can still predict his reaction. But when reading the novel, I got the feeling that Kostya is a tyrant who notices only Isha. This is exactly what the young man was like, who eventually changes a little. Virgo still doesn't know what's going on in his head. Now, looking from a different angle, the girl does not think that he is a tyrant. Perhaps the husband is not yet so imbued with feelings for Aisha. The couple reached a garden in which purple flowers with a wonderful smell bloom. Their name is Robelia. They are beautiful, but poisonous. They are used to make medicine, but the lady does not understand how they ended up here. The young man didn't just bring me to look at the flowers, but perhaps it's true. Enjoying the beautiful views is something to do. The hero calls Robelia the only empress. The conversation is obviously about the one he has ignored for almost 3 years. Instead of shouting, the guy apologizes. Now he began to do this more often and even admits his mistakes. The young man could not change, but now, according to him, he can apologize for his mistakes as much as he wants, even if he had not done so before. The hero does not want to raise the topic of divorce anymore. It's not easy to blatantly lie and manipulate those who sit at the helm of the empire. The brunette doesn't want this, just like the girl. They both want to be together so as not to go anywhere. The lady used to think that Alex looked like a sociopath. He did everything most cruel for the sake of Aisha. He looked down on everyone. Now everything has really changed. The handsome man looks like a man in terrible confusion. Robelia is not the type of person who will forget everything if asked to do so. She's not going to forgive so soon. The girl should not continue to swear, because for them it has become a habit. It seems disrespectful. It doesn't matter what the beauty thinks, because the emperor arrived only to look at the flowers. He doesn't care what his wife says. The man plays using his beauty. He only wants cooperation from the lady, especially since the lady has no interest in others. Even if the heroine is lonely for the rest of her days, she promises that she will never fall in love with her husband. He is not behaving appropriately. The young man takes the lady to the bedroom, thanking her for the day, but she only remembers Aisha. This is all her merit. The brunette is silent. He doesn't intend to object, but instead takes the girl's hand in his, doing it carefully. The hero bends down and kisses his beloved's hand. It's as if a plan is built in my head in order to do all this. No permission was given, but that is how ladies are treated. The emperor knows this better than anyone else. After all the endless goodbyes are over, the heroine runs away. She slams the door, wearily leaning back against the tree. It seems that the young man is ready to behave this way with everyone, but he himself does not think so. He does not understand his feelings, as if he was very intoxicated. The next morning, everyone in society did nothing but talk about the empress's feat. She hit the marquis to prevent him from escaping. I also remembered what happened during Aisha's event. It almost ended in horror, but was saved. Things are much worse for the queen. She does not eat or do anything, listening to the requests of the maids who ask for food. After the bickering, the brunette breaks down. She forces her subordinate to leave her alone to give her a rest. From fatigue, the princess herself does not know what she is doing. The only thing that bothers her is how does Robelia know how to cook Korean dishes? For some reason, Virgo knows about Korean cuisine. The only option is that it came to the world from Korea. If the heroine entered the world through a portal, everything would change. People would definitely notice everything, but the likelihood is low. The most likely option is that the lady simply overheard something about Korean cuisine. There are no more explanations. The heroine couldn't get here because the world is being counted. Most likely, the girl managed to read recipes from books somewhere. Thoughts eat Aisha's head. She doesn't know what to do next because thanks to her rival, she failed. The relationship with Alexander and the status that the girl had been trying to earn for so long were taken away by the Empress. Her Majesty. The Empress decided not to sit still, so she went for a walk with a huge number of accompaniments. It becomes clear why people gather around and are surprised, because this is La Mancha Street, which has its own characteristics. This is a kind of black market with forbidden goods. This is a place to find something rare and show off something else. The Empress shouldn't come here, so I'm even a little ashamed in front of the guards. There is no choice, because the Emperor has been acting rather strangely in the past few days. We need to create a more suitable situation for divorce. The Virgin confidently walked down the street to spend all her money in order to be kicked out, but soon gave up. All the magic items turned out to be useless, but the last store remained. Flying inside, the lady asks you to pack everything you have. There were adult products in the room. This makes you want to sink into the ground, because everyone will think that the purchase was for Alexander. We urgently need to come up with something. There are not many options left, but in any case it is possible. The heroine notices a crowd of people. She realizes that there is an auction that she hadn't thought of, so she orders him to go there. A woman must find something that will help her get a divorce quickly. A man with a mustache comes out onto the platform, beginning to greet everyone who has gathered. The goods that are sold at auction are slaves. The girl didn't even think about this. even knowing that it was legal. The nobles do not buy anyone, since they are foreign and military people, but for this, the lady decides to do something different. If you think about it, one character in the original part has a slave background. He will be one of the main characters. The first lot is Banya An, a charming 18-year-old girl who knows how to embroider. The face also plays a role. Bets start at 50,000. Almost immediately, it becomes clear that the beauty is very scared. The woman is a little worried about what is happening. The rates are getting higher, which means that very soon everyone will be sold. Not wanting to wait any longer, the red-haired woman steps forward. She orders everyone to stop on the orders of the Empress. Queen Kastia's orders are that the auction will be completed. She asks everyone to disperse so as not to cause trouble. The man with the mustache begins to beg to leave everything as it is. It becomes clear that everything can go wrong, which is scary. This makes sense, so the girl hands over the check. Once they both sign on the piece of paper, the slaves will become property of the palace. The hero didn't even bother to look back, almost immediately nodding his head in agreement. He's hungry for money. The clients have dispersed, but there is another problem. The slaves know nothing, and if they are released, they will starve. In addition to all this, if bad people find out that these people were slaves, they will decide to take them back as goods to sell. A woman decides to take an important action. She spent a lot of money to buy everyone, so each of them will go to work in the palace. The butler almost immediately sent word to the emperor so that he would know where the queen had gone. He decided to go after his wife. The knights became the first people to turn out to be against. The place where the heroine lives is not suitable for there to be slaves from other countries. The imperial palace is not a place to let people into who don't even know anything. The proposal has become strange, so the Virgin interrupts conversations. She will be personally responsible for each person, so there will be no problems. They will study for 3 hours a day. Next, you need to teach each of them the manners and basics that everyone knows themselves. Her Majesty should think again, but this is out of the question. The girl comes forward and thanks the woman. The brunette begins to cry, continuing to thank. They are incredibly scared because they don't even know what danger they might face. Each of them is already an adult, so it will take years to train, but after that, you can give enough money for them to live independently. While passing by to go outside, the lady notices a man who is hitting someone and screaming loudly at the same time. Coming forward, the Empress stops the one who is behaving this way and asks if the boy is a slave. The lady bought everyone, but he is still here. As it turned out, the young man belongs to the House of Shareholders, so he was not put up for sale. Just as the lady can see, the man is a little lame in one leg, so accordingly no one even needs him. The girl gives a large sum, intending to buy a boy, but before that she asks for a whip. The seller does not immediately understand everything, so he asks in surprise what the whole point is. Very soon he will find out everything. The whip is truly one of the most dangerous and painful weapons, so when Robelia gets it in her hands, she swings it with all her might. The weapon lands directly on the employer's cheek. He used to be the owner of the boy, treating him unfairly. He got what he deserved. Even if the hero is a slave, this does not mean that someone has the right to treat him that way. If the man continues to stand still, he will regret it. The woman lets him go far away, wondering why her hand hurts so much. We need to spend more time preparing. It will be fun! The Empress went to an auction on La Mancha Street to buy suspicious goods and slaves. Now public opinion is on the side of the Virgin. Now the lady will be free. All that remains is to wait. A young man sitting on the ground thanks a woman. He is glad that he was saved, but does not want to undergo treatment because he does not consider himself worthy. Looking at the child who looks so familiar, the beauty raises her eyebrows in surprise. He could be Caleb. Trying not to hesitate, the girl immediately asks the boy's name, and as it turns out, every guess became correct. A minor character appeared in the book seemingly out of nowhere. As you know, he was supposed to appear a little later. This man appeared somewhere in the middle of the plot. Despite his innocent and good-natured appearance, he had a dark side too. He was a slave from birth because his parents were prisoners of war. Being self-taught, he rose to the level of a seventh circle magician. He made great contributions to magic and got rid of his slave status, after which an information guild was created, which helped Aisha, with whom he was in love. It remains only to find out whether it was Caleb. Grabbing the guy's face, the lady asks him to look into his eyes. No matter how you look at it, the guy looks like that same person. He should be 16 now, but he looks younger. His personality seems more timid. No reasons were found in youth. The girl understands how it looks from the outside, so she lets go of the boy's face. The voice behind me seems familiar. Alexander menacingly asks what the woman is doing, noticing her manipulations. Grunting, the lady is not even going to answer anything, so she simply asks in response what her husband forgot here. Although the guy asked, it's clear why he came. He must be angry that the girl went to the streets of La Mancha. The Empress is not where she should be. I don't answer anything. The young man turns his attention, asking who this dirty boy is next to. She bought slaves and 30 more. Surprised, raising his eyebrow, the hero asks why his wife tried to kiss the young man, thereby causing a reaction. Virgo did not try to do anything indecent, because she decided to simply examine all the wounds that he had. Now, looking at the hero's body, the Emperor notices all the abrasions and other bloody stains that are on the body. It seems that the brunette feels better, or so to speak, looking at his face. He understands that it is not up to him. The strange thing is that the man is not angry at all. He looks pretty calm, even if he came to scold him. There is no need to get angry over such a small thing. Nobody has the right to do this, especially not her own husband. Leaning a little closer so that he is right next to his ear, the brunette notices that he is the owner of this street. Immediately after the young man ascended the throne, he bought a street with his own money to keep illegal activities under surveillance. Few people know about such information, including the secretary. The guy shares information because it's his wife. Alexander prevented all the plans that had been made, which means, obviously, even this one will fall apart. A normal person would not tell such secrets to someone he is about to divorce. His confession is an expression of his leadership. At the same time, it is an expression of confidence that nothing bad will happen. That's the whole point. Now, everything has become different, because the red-haired girl knows the secret that was told to her. She can't do anything anymore. Such an expression of emotions screams that now the marital relationship will be like steam and water. It doesn't matter anymore, because Caleb has expressed his desire to become a warrior who protects Her Majesty. Changing a young man's mind is not so difficult, but we can remind you how difficult it will be to study this matter without preparation. Being a knight is too dangerous, but that doesn't mean it's impossible to find something more suitable. The girl wants to find a suitable job for the guy just because of how talented he is. He shouldn't choose the wrong thing. Cleaning and carrying things is impossible with a broken leg. I want to say something, but the brunette is the first to say that he has a bit of magical power. The hero hid this for a long time, as problems could arise, but there can be no secrets from the queen. The promise will be kept, because the young man is going to protect his friend with his own strength. Now Caleb began to talk openly. You can try working at a research center. It will be better if the guy learns more about his magical powers and improves his skills. This will help him in the future. There will be many people of the same age in the center with whom you can make friends. The reaction is amazing because the young boy asks not to go and cries. As a child, Caleb was bullied very often and a lot by his peers. The fear of missing a meeting only intensifies, adding problems. The heroine's eyes widen in horror. She couldn't even imagine that a friend had gone through something like this, so she suggested. Perhaps in the original, he wanted to take revenge for the bullying. This may be one of the reasons. Another reason is that it is still hard for him because he is young. At that age, everything is completely different. There is no choice left because the boy cries and begs to stay with him. And there are so many nights, but the young man cannot study with other servants. In any case, the heroine plans to keep the brunette next to her for a year. The choice couldn't be easier, showing a smile on his face that replaces the tears frozen in his eyes. He does not believe that they will not abandon him and will do this for him. The boy is glad that he can become a knight, because this is the best day of his meaningless life. It is impossible to describe what is seething inside. The hero is happy, but if something goes wrong, it will be bad. The life of a handsome man is not meaningless. You shouldn't say so. There is meaning in everything, in every living being. From now on, you should be more careful so as not to get yourself into trouble. Caleb kneels, reaching out his hands to the woman's feet. He will do everything to serve her as a true master. Surprisingly asking what the boy is doing, the lady receives the answer that slaves should say this to their master. After this, the young man promised that he would not behave like that. He began to follow the Empress everywhere, becoming an eyesore for Alex. It is necessary to follow the person you are protecting, but he will not help anyone, like a knight. Too small. In any case, this is the wife's choice. The Emperor cannot influence him, regardless of the relationship. There's no need to worry. The list of all the embarrassing things that Robelia has acquired seems endless and much more important. It is not normal for the Empress to be on the streets of La Mancha and throw money around. Everyone asks for a reason. It will be difficult to find all the people who saw the woman and keep them silent. But compared to this, This does not seem to be a difficult task. The secretary and the agent cannot be wrong. That day, Robelia actually bought a lot of things for adults and then put them in storage. There definitely must be a reason for everything Robelia does. If it were another person, Alexander would have thought that she wanted to spend the night, but here that is not the case. The lady has always directly said that she wants a divorce, but for some reason now she's acquiring all these things, which already seems nonsense. The only way out is to ask directly. If Robelia still wants to spend the night, the young man won't even mind. Robelia has many sensitive areas, so you need to move calmly. My thoughts are interrupted by a male voice from the room. The voice belongs to the same slave who follows the girl everywhere. He's trying to argue something. It's the middle of the night, and they're talking so openly to each other in the bedroom. The virgin does not accept her husband's gifts, but gives clothes to the boy. Not intending to wait any longer, the brunette sharply opens the door. He understands that the time has come to interfere. The husband cannot just stand and be silent in such a statue. The knight and empress whisper suspiciously while in the same bedroom at night. The woman wants to start screaming, but Caleb is proactive. He gets down on one knee, asking forgiveness for his insolence. The empress is not to blame, because she gave the clothes, and he himself came. Raising the young man from the ground, the maiden asks if she can reward her subjects for their loyalty. If the emperor thinks that the queen is cheating on him, he should moderate his ardor. Last time it was already said that with this child, everything is completely different. The brunette still suspects someone so innocent. The heroine called him herself, so she is responsible for everything. For some reason, the hero is too impulsive next to his wife, who does not understand anything. He must restrain himself so as not to destroy the marriage. The slave was sent into the corridor because the couple needed to talk privately. He leaves, only looking back one last time. The heroes are left alone. The girl glares at her husband, trying to silently find out what exactly is wrong. Finally starting to speak first, the beauty asks to stop looking like that so that it doesn't just get worse. The emperor arrived only to compromise. Since the brunette said certain things, it makes it clear that he wants to hear something. The stronger a man is, the more greedy he becomes. But this just means that he does not have to look after the girl. In the future, you should not do something that is not required, because this will only aggravate the current state of affairs, forcing you to think. To make another person happier, a young man just has to forget about everything and divorce him, thereby making everyone around him better. Leaning over, the guy kisses his beloved's hand. He is not capable of committing such an act and understands perfectly well what is wrong. The jokes are no longer funny, because the girl would just like to be released as soon as possible. The hero has never cared and will never care about his woman. She wouldn't ask to be helped. There's only one thing left to do to finally resolve the whole situation. The brunette walks forward, knocking Kostya onto the bed. Sincerity can only be shown in this way, because there is no other way. The lady tries to get up, shouting her name. Instead of listening to reproaches, Alex leans forward, covering the girl's lips with his own. They are drawn into a kiss. Still, pushing her husband away, the heroine orders him to get out. There is a slight blush on your face that reaches your ears. It was not rational for the king to do such a thing. He looked like he was crazy, but he liked the kiss. We need to find a way to atone for the girl. Instead of looking for a way out, the young man thinks about the queen's lips. It's strange to get such pleasure from a kiss with the opposite sex. For some reason, only Robelia is capable of this. Now it's strange to realize that the guy accused his wife of being in the room with someone. It is normal for nobles to have lovers. Even if a slave came to the queen's room, or if she finds lovers, this should not worry the man, because everything was specified in their contract. Now things get even more confusing. The brunette cannot understand what exactly is wrong, even if he wants to. You need to change your relationship with a woman. I want to have not only a good relationship, but also a combination that could make me feel loved. My heart beats like crazy in my chest. The young man himself realizes that he wants to be with his wife as with no one else. The hero would like to walk with the maiden and also help with other things besides missions. A kiss is also important, but feelings should not take over the brain. The red-haired girl jumps onto the bed with a running start, covering her face with a pillow. The strange sensations just can't go away. After everything that happened, the girl realizes that she is slowly going crazy. For some reason, she kissed another person despite her inhibitions. The man attacked himself, but to correct it, the girl kissed him back. The ego begins to ache more than ever. The next day is just a rest day. The beauty does not want to do anything so as not to undermine her feelings. The door opens and a maid enters, desperately calling for Her Majesty, the Empress, who cannot get out of bed. The woman does not want to do anything, however, as it turned out. The message was conveyed by the Emperor himself, who wants to see each other. After yesterday, the girl won't even be able to look the guy in the eyes, but she has no choice. The redhead understands what the consequences may be, but is ready to ignore Alexander, even if he comes himself. This would be a good option, but you also don't want to put the maid in a bad position. She doesn't deserve this. Even the heroine herself is curious what will happen next. The young man's intentions are unknown, even if he is silent. Virgo arrived within 30 minutes, which was faster than she thought. The king greets her as if he had really been waiting for her. One could wait even longer, because this is Robelia, who deserves everything in the state like no other. The heroine hoped that her husband would not notice anything and leave, but this turned out to be too much to ask. The woman had no intention of doing anything, so to show disrespect, she came without even combing her hair. By allowing herself to do this right in front of the emperor, the maiden once again expresses her ardent position. The girl may leave, but she will return very soon. In the end, everything turns out exactly as it should. The king gets everything he wants. Sitting down on a chair, the brunette, shrugging his shoulders, only reminds of his joy on the occasion of meeting his beloved. Nothing else can even bother him, so he remains silent. The red-haired girl's skeptical look speaks for itself. She cannot feel any delight from everything that is happening. Finally, starting a conversation, the young man asks why his wife came. He called her, but I want to hear his intentions. There is no question here. The beauty wants the man to tell everything he wanted and leave her alone. The heroine was so tired that she didn't even comb her hair, not at all considering that it was something necessary. There was still no way out. Bowing his head, the brunette asks for forgiveness for everything that happened the night before the meeting. The couple's lips touched because the emperor did it without thinking. And now, of course, he admits every mistake he made. He asks for forgiveness. Perhaps Alexander felt guilty, so the reason began to eat him from the inside, forcing him to apologize. Looking at the brunette's face, the girl realizes that she is mistaken. All this time, she tried to forget what happened, but he reminded her. As it turns out, Robelia is incredibly weak against her husband's approach. He managed to notice this. The wife was surprised. The man who is called the son of the empire, in the end, does not even care about his own life partner. It would be enough to simply kiss the concubine and divorce the woman who is not interesting, so that she does not become an eyesore. There is nothing to ask for forgiveness for, because the hero, as it turned out, never slept with anyone or even kissed. Realization hits your head. It's not entirely clear why the woman is so surprised, since this was mentioned at the beginning of the marriage, but it's not that important. Laughing, the hero finally understands what the problem is. The girl thought that he did not keep his word and kissed Aisha. This is not true, but in Robelia's head it makes sense, because the man had 2 wives. He is from the imperial family, and this must be associated with heritage. Yesterday I had my first kiss. The young man never thought that Robelia's trust would be so low. What he said is true. The emperor cannot lie, especially when he swears to Mostafo. This means only one thing. The first kiss was with his wife. It has been a long time since the maiden read the novella herself. She can't remember if there was such a scene in Flower from Another World. There was nothing said in the comments, especially not about the kiss. The reaction is disconcerting. Something like this shouldn't stand in the way or ruin the mood, so when she gets up, the beauty sits down and curtsies, getting ready to leave. We need to figure out how to quickly get away from the castle. These feelings are fake and have nothing to do with reality, and that is the only conclusion that can be drawn. What is clear is that Robelia pretended to be frivolous, but at the same time remained weak when in contact with the other sex. The Empress may blush in this way in front of others, which will not be good. It might be worth increasing security. Perhaps you should try your luck and try to seduce your wife. This will help make her your loyal ally. It was necessary to leave behind what was between the couple, but then she went to the black market and even bought something interesting. People should spread rumors. Perhaps this can be believed, but there is nothing like this in any newspaper or article. Nobody spreads rumors. The Virgin deliberately put on a provocative outfit and wandered where there were more people. This raises many questions. Most likely, Alexander did something. Although he is unshakable in such matters, they simply must part. At first, the girl thought about returning, but realized that there was no point because her family hated her. Robelia's problem is exactly the same. She has no one. At the end of the divorce, only money will be left. 2 things that a divorcing woman may care about are jewelry and outfits. Virgo also spends money on things, and for all the luxury items that she has, she can buy a decent house in a small village. For things to get better, things have to get worse. It would be better to try to get a job in tax or legal company since the lady worked there in the past. For women, anything is possible, and it doesn't matter what the beauty chooses. She'll need to meet some people the next time she goes shopping. The first thing the Empress did was buy out all the things from the warehouse, which, of course, she had no intention of using, and burned them. Perhaps those things were not bought for a couple, but by accident. This even made the brunette a little upset. The servant also reports about the slaves that the Empress acquired on the street of La Mancha. The slaves do a great job. Everyone does a great job, so what Robelia wants to do in the palace only gets better. Bathhouse was the first to overhear the maids discussing the fact that the workers were working without being asked to do so. Good people attract good people, so the girls shower the new arrivals with compliments. Showing as much attention as Robelia does is not easy, so all that remains is to praise the woman for everything she does. Caleb, who approaches almost unnoticed from behind, asks his friend what she is doing. She just remains silent. The girl is trying to justify herself. She had already finished her studies, but she just heard someone praising the Empress, so she stayed to listen. The woman hid the identities of each of them so that they would not be laughed at. Nobody knew that they were slaves. The girl thought more than once about everything that Castia had done and came to the conclusion that she would do anything to help her. The beauty could not even imagine that she would be dressed like this, or that she would be well fed. Also, if such slaves are bought, they can be assigned to serve people at night. Not quite understanding what her friend means, Vanya clarifies. She assures her that everything is fine so she can quickly change the subject. The girl drinks her tea in complete calm before the secretary asks if Caleb should be sent to her room at night. It's not the servant's fault that he decided this way, because the boy really became closer to the girl. It's normal to have lovers. As it turns out, everything has to be explained. Virgo keeps the young man next to her because she wants to teach him everything, and not for him to serve her. The girl has never considered herself a villain, but she is not going to tolerate the rumors that might spread. Caleb shouldn't do these things or know about them. He has completely different things on his mind that are much more important. Advances in the study of magic have already begun to appear. According to the young man, today he was even given his first compliment. He was told that everyone was surprised at how he could use the magic of the 3 circles. The young man seems happy, and that's the most important thing. The hero has not heard anything about what is happening around him, which already has its advantages. The young man is going to do everything possible to show results. Since the young man asked to look at it like that, it means she will think about it. You should not leave a teenager without praise. The brunette nods, and then suddenly drops to one knee. He knows what to do and what to ask for. A slight blush appears on the face. The young man asks to forgive him, but speaks in a veiled manner, without saying exactly. Recently, the hero has not been able to see the Empress often. He is a knight, so he must find time. There was too much to do, even for Robelia, so nothing could be done. The hero is going to help her in some other way. The boy heard that people like him could provide special services. The Virgin is trying to hide her horror, because she thought that nothing was known about this. The girl has no such intentions, but since Caleb cannot repay, he will at least do this. He leans closer. The woman understands that this is the end, but the last resort is a book, which she places between them. It's right to appreciate that they want to help her, but it doesn't change the fact that what's happening is wrong. People of his kind can do things like that and get married at 16, but even so, that's not an option. A young man must love himself. He is trying to do something, but this should only be done with someone you truly love, like no one else. The queen was just anyone, but in the end, it all failed. The young man comes out, realizing that he made a mistake, missing a good chance. The emperor appears before him as if out of nowhere. He heard words spoken out loud that alerted him. The hero again went into Robelia's bedroom, but did this only because she herself called. Virgo wanted to check her progress. Without answering anything to what the man said, the hero asks, did he know who exactly was standing in front of him at the very first meeting? The young man can only be in the palace thanks to the Empress. He has evil intentions that betray his good heart. This is true, although not completely. Even if a person is a slave, he has the right to have feelings for the Empress. The girl sees the boy only as a younger brother, so there is no point in worrying. He will always stand up for his girlfriend. Realizing that there is nothing more to say, the brunette turns to leave. He wishes that the interlocutor would never meet his eyes again. Aisha is talking in her chambers with a servant. He didn't do a proper investigation, which only angered her. Nothing is really known about the queen. It turns out that she lived on the duke's estate even before the wedding, and after that, she spent almost no time outside. Information in this world is public knowledge, so misappropriation is considered a serious crime. The woman cannot believe that there is no evidence that the lady did something so dangerous. There definitely needs to be a book where the lady gets the information. If the servant did not find anything, it only means that he did a bad job. Robelia's subordinates are very competent, but for some reason the hero himself is completely different, which can't help but upset. In the meantime, the young man heard a rumor that he was going to tell. All the workers that the lady brought are slaves. One of the sellers on La Mancha Street is a witness. The queen walked along it with many guards and also went through several shops. Nobody knows anything, but the man said that the woman bought all the slaves that were there, paying huge sums for them. The rumors did not spread because literally the next day people came and forced the others to remain silent. All this means is that Robelia has blocked the flow of information. She didn't want anyone to know about her shame. The girl smiles. They can take a break from the investigation because they have a new job. The man was sent to the editors of the notorious Weekend Opinion. Everything that happened there became a rumor in due time. The first thing you need to do is a few copies of low-grade tabloids that have worked together with the gossip columns. Nobody usually trusts such newspapers, but as a rule, they are not so influenced by the palace or the emperor. Even the pretending to be decent aristocrats are looking for such low-grade gossip that gets around. The power of such rumors to spread is obvious and great. Holding out the paper, the lady offers to place bets. The man did as he was told without even thinking, so the next morning everyone knew that the Empress was on La Mancha Street. People picked up the news almost instantly. No one believed that a woman became a ruler with such low social standards. Editor-in-Chief of Weekend Opinion. William Pono himself does not know whether this is true, so he considers it not important. The only thing that came was a letter from an anonymous witness, but there was not even a word about a secret lover. This seems obvious. The Empress bought a lot of adult products, and everyone already knows about the couple's relationship. With such assumptions, everything will be fine, but we can only hope. It is not safe to write such things about the government. These are not assumptions, but a logical conclusion based on events. The imperial family cannot do anything about the newspaper to ban it. Although in the end the newspaper made more copies than required, they were unable to cover the demand that they received. Everything is too strange, as if someone is deliberately spreading rumors. The Empress, who is not yet aware of all the rumors, walks around the palace, hearing her maid calling her. The girl begins to talk about what she knows about the soul of a virgin, which is kinder than anyone else's. It's not worth listening to others. Listening to everything they tell her, the girl nods, but then asks to be left alone for a while to think. At least a little. Walking back into her chambers, the red-haired girl almost jumps up to the ceiling with joy. She succeeded. If the rumors never existed, they would have to be spread independently. Successful management of public opinion has always been a wonderful thing. It's time to rejoice. The situation is much more serious. It seemed that living a free life was the best thing. She wanted the emperor to throw her out because of indecent adventures. Everything worked out exactly as it should, but now the reactions turned into something more serious. The lady understands that this is already a problem. There's no point in scolding a person for a lover who doesn't even exist. Virgo doesn't care about the rumors, but Caleb and the other children don't. Since everything turned out this way, it is necessary that the scandal concentrates only on the queen. It will be better for everyone. Then everything just gets more interesting. His Majesty called a special press conference, which was already ready. In addition to all this, the maid conveyed His Majesty's wish that the young lady could also participate without question. Perhaps Alex decided to announce the divorce, even if the probability is 0. It's worth finding out what your husband is up to. First of all, you should prepare. The beauty cannot pull herself together to come to the conference looking like she was just pulled out of bed. The editor of the newspaper that caused the whole scandal gets ahead faster than anyone. He asks the king to say a few words before he begins. The man must be feeling strange and at this stage begins to think about a divorce that will not happen. Rumors that the second empress will be the first are possible, but the secretary is the first to cut off questions that are inappropriate. The woman has not arrived yet, so everyone is waiting for her. Appearing in the hall in an open dress, the lady asks if she is late. The world where the heroine came from also had a dress code. For press conferences and the like, you should wear neat clothes in neutral colors. It is not necessary to follow these rules, since Robelia is not from there. I don't want to seem indecisive. The sounds of the chosen one's falling reputation can already be heard around. She was able to calculate everything almost perfectly. If this continues, then the bad reputation and public interest will be directed only at the queen. Robelia had been repeatedly asked not to wear anything like that, but of course she didn't listen. Knowing the heroine, she will try to resist in order to somehow change something, but in the end, it will not work. She doesn't like smart characters. Before the conference begins, the young man begins a speech about La Mancha Street, which the Empress recently visited. This is not the place for her. The queen's honor is not tarnished, so what the hero suddenly reveals is that she went there on his orders. Everyone around perks up, starting to ask what exactly this means, without even noticing the girl's reaction. Deciding to save his wife, Alexander decides to act to the end. According to him, he is the sole owner of La Mancha Street. Disclosing this fact to the public is simply not good, but there were reasons for this too. Before this, for certain reasons, the hero was silent, but now he did it only to protect the honor of the Empress. The expression on the girl's face asks, "Is everything okay with her husband's head?" And even he himself has noticed this. There are no more questions, but the only thing that interests the main one is the rumors that the girl bought a lot of adult products. Perhaps this is an order from His Majesty, or perhaps something else. The man is clearly hinting at having a lover. The lady bought it all by mistake, so she can't leave, but the young man can't. He simply wouldn't be able to carry on a conversation. The emperor nevertheless comes to the defense. Bad rumors have spread, but this does not mean that each of them is true, just like assumptions. If a person buys such products, then it goes without saying who exactly he's going to use them with and how exactly. Noticing the anger, the guy mouths that this man is one of those who believes that Caleb is the woman's lover. The lady has already said more than once that nothing can happen between her and this child, but the rest are not. This is what means that you need to confirm what was said, because the girl still cares about her people. The hero has already repeatedly noticed his wife in the corridor with Caleb, to whom she gave her smiles. Now the face shows nothing but anger, which turns into an arrogant look. Nothing can be done because the situation is getting more complicated. Since rumors may pester the boy, this is the best option. Making an embarrassed face, the lady lowers her gaze to the floor, saying that this is all true. Now even she understands that it is best to play to the public. All things were purchased by order of His Majesty, because no rumors or lover could come between them. They have a good relationship, so the hero asks if last night was good, to which the lady can only nod. To say that the relationship between a couple is simply good is not enough. They are actually great because of their connection. The unexpected conference ended with a warm response from people around who liked such a sensation. On the same day, articles began to appear in the evening newspapers stating that relations with the imperial family had improved greatly. Several articles were so similar to a novel that the lady could not read them. She could only relax and forget, because she was not the main character. The queen herself is fine, but the children who work have developed problems, even if they are proud. So far, everyone has been fine with them. People around said that everything was fine, but even the Empress herself understands that it is impossible for everyone around her to accept this. Thinking about what the consequences might be, the lady only understands that nothing can be done. She has no right to decide the fate of others. Caleb was the first to go to waste. He was a slave, like everyone else Robelia brought. A group of young men pestered the boy, asking how a slave like him could hold his head so high in the palace. Passing by, the blonde touches the young man's shoulder, but then runs away, shouting that he urgently needs to wash himself after the mud. Turning around to look at the offenders one last time, the brunette lights up with one of his ideas. The next morning, it was learned that the son of Viscount Maine had fallen from his horse and broken his leg. It seemed as if someone had simply bitten the horse, because such a mistake was simply stupid for a person. While watching the islanders, Caleb picks up a mouse, which he thanks for the job done. He knew what to do. Now that Viscount is as much a lame slave as Caleb himself, nothing could come of it but to arrange something like this to pacify everyone. This was true, but in fact there is no such knightly order where there would be lame knights, so this will not work. Letting go of the mouse, the young man smiles, telling himself that he should quickly return back so as not to make Her Majesty worry. The others also began to mock Banya. She tries to endure it because she cannot accidentally disgrace the queen. Each of them discusses the girl and how dirty she is. The threads she was carrying also ended up on the ground, getting dirty. This kind of thing is most suitable for someone like a brunette. She brought them herself, so now she has to pick them up. A voice so familiar orders the maid not to touch anything. As it turned out, this is the queen who arrived in response to the screams. If a girl does something like that, she'll get her hands dirty. But working for Her Highness, she shouldn't do anything like that. The beauty actively begins to apologize, but is interrupted. A woman expects to hear something like this from maids who bully her. If we talk about reals, they should not end up in the hands of a maid, but in the mouths of those who have no social norms. The maids begin to justify themselves by saying that they did not want slaves to walk around the palace and disgrace part of the imperial house. The woman independently chose these people, but now some servants doubt her choice and insight, which is annoying. If these actions do not challenge the queen's authority, then you should think about it a few more times before doing anything. Now all curses directed at children will be regarded as a direct attack on Robelia. Her Majesty, as she thought, Bath is simply incredible. From the very beginning she seemed beautiful, but after all her actions she only became better. Now the girl's intervention was enough, but they still live in the Empire, so in the future the problem will not go away on its own. This will continue to happen because people around don't care. They don't consider slaves exactly the same as them. Bath catches up with the queen to bow her head and once again thank the woman for her salvation. She really is grateful. The girl had no intention of helping, but she noticed the bullying. In response, the brunette almost cries because her name is remembered. Starting to cry, the brunette continues to shower the girl with the compliments she deserves. There is nothing special about the girl, but she promises to devote her whole life to serving Robelia, as well as her body and soul. Bath, emotionally told about what the queen had done, but other slaves, having heard, came in the morning to ask to change the decision. Each of them promised that they would work even harder and, apparently, decided to overload themselves with work for the sake of the virgin's reputation. The words backfired because the children began to praise the empress, spreading good words and rumors that were picked up by the others. It was in this way that the plan failed completely, and the useless reputation only became better. Everything Robelia has done lately has, for some reason, had the opposite effect. She tried to worsen her reputation. Even so, a lady cannot stop spending, because clothes and jewelry are all capital. All the money has almost been collected, but still not quite. Virgo is not sure that she will be able to work, although she has begun to study taxation, which is here in the Empire. The heroine wants to open her own business in a small town, make a small garden, and wants to get a dog and a cat. This will be true happiness. The maid announces the arrival of the guest, Alexander. In recent days, he has been wandering around the castle, but it is extremely difficult to meet his wife. The woman is not going to do anything, so when asked about more meetings, she refuses. They don't have the kind of relationship where they shower each other with sweet words. It's worth going straight to the most important thing. Extending his hand, the young man reminds about Friday dinner, which, as usual, will take place one of these days. All this is said for a reason, because the girl must be present there with her husband, who is waiting for this. The girl doesn't want to go anywhere, but a week has passed since the press conference. The public has the impression that they have a relationship that now needs to be maintained. The couple hasn't spoken once all week, so in the end, you have to try hard to play your roles. According to the red-haired woman, he came to threaten or remind that if anything happens, a rumor about a lover might spread among the slaves. Threats are out of the question. The heroine simply cares too much about her slaves, so this can lead to not very good consequences. Such rumors will be a significant hindrance to the slaves in the future. You shouldn't make anyone feel uncomfortable. You don't have to do too much other than attend a formal dinner and light up the place with your presence. It will be done as the husband asks, but this does not change the fact that this will be the last participation in such an annoying event. Leaning over, the brunette gently kisses the girl's hand. This was a wise decision, because otherwise it would only have been worse. Everything once again turns out exactly the way the man wants it. The lady doesn't want children like Caleb to lose their future. This is not such a critical matter, because the couple will only put on an act once and pretend that they are on good terms. Her Majesty the Empress nevertheless decided to appear. No one thought she would even wear a matching dress once. Perhaps at least some kind of peace of mind finally came in the girl's soul, so she began to behave this way. For the sake of the concept of a villainess, the lady amazed the public. But today, due to serious preparations, she fell asleep, and the maids did everything at their own discretion. The women found an excuse. They did not want the lady to be criticized or insulted, especially since the image is beautiful. Each of them was sincerely worried about the girl, so there was no point in arguing anymore. The people who help the heroine are one of the few who really care about her like no one else. The only drawback was the clingy people at the banquet, who constantly praised the image of the empress. The heroine could not even imagine that a small change of image could get such a fierce reaction from the others. The voice from behind belongs to a man. He is the eldest son of the Count of Vintos, Viscount Fernand Vintos, and greets Her Highness. It's an honor to meet the Queen as she has been through a lot due to the recent rumors. The heroine chuckles. She is not at all worried about the looks of people who approach her, paying attention only to her appearance. The girl probably also heard about Marquis Wilhelm. The recent history surrounding him has been strange. These people are acting too strange. They decided to approach only because the maiden changed her outfit, completely forgetting how a beauty usually acts. Due to the absence of Aisha and Alexander, all attention was concentrated on the girl who does not want this so much. I would like to quickly run away to somewhere far away. The servant's voice announces the arrival of the king, who almost immediately appears next to the lady, asking her to stay with him. Robelia tries to remain silent, but is quietly outraged that her husband is so late, forcing her to take the blow. There are still 10 minutes before the banquet starts, which means it's not that bad. You only need to trust one more time. The hero understands that everything will end soon, but the woman needs to stay close for just a little while longer and then get what she deserves. Aisha, who entered the hall, bows her head. Due to preparations, I had to be a little late, but it was worth it because the image was chosen perfectly. A vulgar woman in the form of Robelia cannot be a rival to one who carefully selects her clothes to match. Her Majesty, the Queen, has arrived. Men surround the brunette, showering her with compliments. The heroine responds with smiles and kind words, but realizes that something is wrong. All eyes are directed to the side. The girl quickly makes her way forward, apologizing to everyone, but a picture of a kissing couple appears before her eyes. Alexander releases the Queen, who smiles slightly, trying to hide the blush that lit up her face. All words and sounds are mixed into one nasty rustle. Aisha tries to keep her balance in her face, no longer intending to remain in place and observe everything that happened. The Queen turns around and runs away. Everything happened too quickly, so no one even stopped the heroine. Alex looks directly at his wife, asking what's next. The couple was still able to deceive everyone around them, doing it quite elegantly, without any doubt. The virgin thought that the young man would really give him a kiss, but he was only pretending. The effect is still guaranteed, because no one thinks that the couple is playing. A girl who gets into her room breaks everything in her path. She herself doesn't quite understand her feelings, because she used to care about these things. Lowering her head, the heroine tries to catch her breath. It wasn't easy for her, so all she can do is try to calm down. Scarlet blood appears on the hands due to the cut. The Empress cannot act like this, because it is not at all nice. It's strange to realize that everything didn't go as planned. Alexander belongs only to Aisha. This is the fate of the character. In this story, a guy must choose a charming brunette after falling in love. However, for some reason now, everything has changed so much. The heroine cannot even say what influences this. The young man resists fate so much without realizing it. He chooses a woman who doesn't deserve it. It is no longer so important what happens next, because the girl has already decided in advance that she is going to get rid of the one who is diligently bothering her. This is not even cruelty, because originally the imperial palace was just such a place. If a lady wants to become a woman of the highest status, she must do so. There is nothing wrong with Aisha's decision. She just wants to correct the distorted order in which events occur. It is then that Alexander, as destined, will love only his beloved, and everything will be fine. If only the lady could return what was deprived of her, everything would become much simpler. For this reason, she came into history. The emperor ordered furniture to mark the completion of renovations in the empress's palace, but she openly said that she did not like it. Lately, Castia has been taking care of her wife, but she won't accept anything, even if it's a momentary whim. The empress brought 30 slaves to the palace, and even an aristocrat could not save face after this, let alone the ruler. The brunette, listening to all these conversations, calmly says that Her Majesty had motives. She also tries to save face. The girl thinks so simply because of her kind soul, but in reality this is not true. You cannot protect a woman who is a political partner. Even the Duke must agree. The blonde man with scarlet eyes nods, but says nothing. From the very beginning, he simply listened because he did not consider it necessary to say anything. The Duke has always been favorable to Aisha, but this does not mean that he needs to curse the Empress just like everyone else gathered. A person like the young man is not very interested in conversations, so he is simply going to leave so as not to disturb anyone. The young man is about to leave, but not before telling Her Highness that she should be careful with the expression she so often uses. If you get close to not very good people, then what you see and hear becomes erroneous. You need to try to correct yourself. As soon as the door slams, everyone around begins to console the Queen, because Schwarzkopf did not act nicely. The Duke had always been stubborn, and the heroine knew this very well, but she did not even suspect that it manifested itself so strongly. In any case, the lady will break her stubbornness, and perhaps even tame the young man in order to use it in the future. In the morning, there was a commotion in the palace. Her Majesty was roused from bed quite early, asking to read the new newspaper. The girl notices that the eyes are wet, which means that the maids were crying. They are not machines to control emotions. None of them actually cried, or at least that's what they want to say. The newspaper is much more important. There, on every page, it talks about the slaves that the girl brought. There is more than one or even two such articles. Casey is actually crying. The lady was simply angry about addressing the slaves, so she brought them to the palace. If the children did not care about the lady with such sincerity, then she would simply be happy with this outcome. But the matter was completely different. For people who love the queen, this is almost impossible to bear. It's difficult for them. To reassure the maids, the girl reminds them that she wants to get a divorce. There is no need to worry, because this only brings the girl closer to her goal. The maids understand this perfectly and try to come to terms with it, but at the same time they are upset by the fact that the lady is addressed this way. Everyone they know just wants the queen to be happy. She is an outstanding person who deserves it. When you think about it, heroine has never been cared for so much. Even in her past life, she had neither friends nor a loved one. Previously, the Empress had only read about this in other novels, but she never expected to see something like this in real life. There will be nothing left but to tell the truth again. The girl will not be happy as long as she is with the Emperor. The man does not love his wife because he is only interested in the second queen. He is the boss in this castle and he chooses himself. The young man loves only his wife, and now his actions are nothing more than a whim on which he acts. All this is because they are the main characters of the current story. You can't think that someday everything will be different. Casey has one last request. If His Majesty convinces the lady that he only needs a wife, she should not think about divorce. The woman promises, realizing that it is natural for the maids to think this way, because they see from the outside how desperately Rebellia desires her husband's love. For the sake of children who believe so much, a lady can promise. Aisha indicated the exact number of slaves, so it was her doing. While at Miss Solomon's estate, the future ruler smiles as she asks the Duchess if she understood what was said. The woman nods actively. She understands that she still has no choice, so she tries to agree as quickly as possible. The only thing that worries Solomon is the consequences that could happen if the truth is revealed. The girl laughs easily. The Duchess behaves as if the brunette is spreading false rumors, even if they are the truth. It is true that the Empress brought 30 slaves to the palace to denigrate the state with such people. Everyone just decided to remind the others once again what they had forgotten about. This is not a question, because over time everyone will understand. Finding out the source of the rumors that are already so widespread is difficult even for the great sage of the Magic Tower. A woman believes in superior reputation and influence that will help change the world. Virgo also believes that the Duchess will be of great help, no matter what, as a good person. There are only more questions. The lady does not know what else needs to be done to overthrow the Empress who is interfering with her. According to the law of the Empire, there are 5 ways to overthrow the Empress. Sometimes it is possible to do this if the country's public opinion completely turns away from the Empress. There is also a point about a situation where the Empress significantly disgraces the authority of the imperial family, and it can work. In any case, this will not help, because Kastya is completely bewitched by his wife and does not see anything. Virgo does not know what Rebellia used, but if public opinion shakes the country, then Alexander will not be able to do anything. Very soon, the whole world will become only for Aisha. She will overthrow the queen, who will lie at her feet even if it is too late. Taking into his hand a butterfly that was flying outside the window during a conversation, Caleb praises the moth, asking him to let him hear everything that was said. The girl seems like a simpleton because she doesn't understand the truth that is hidden under the layers. Nothing seems the way it should be. The atmosphere between the maids was bad, so the brunette decided to check if it was true that Isha was plotting. Sincerity is just a mask of someone who wants to get something. Even the brunette has the same mask, so he knows. A truly sincere person should be like the Empress, but not like Aisha. He will be able to use this to his advantage. The queen will fall for her own trick, but it will be too late. For now, she is organizing another event. Receiving a bunch of compliments, the beauty smiles, as if she understands what needs to be said in response. The banquet, just like everything else, receives many compliments. Everything is going exactly according to the plan that the brunette made. It will not be enough to simply tarnish Rebelia's image with the help of the public. We need people to say that Aisha is fit to be the mother of the empire. For the sake of the girl's reputation, the event must be successful in order to let everyone around understand who exactly is in front of them. The Duchy of Schwarzk is the northernmost territory of the country, filled with monsters, and it is even said that the people living there have a connection with the monsters. From such a place, a very eccentric past duke suddenly brought a boy to the capital 17 years ago. The child with silver hair and red eyes is just Norman, about whom everyone around him knows best. These are rare colors for the empire, so rumors began to spread that some of the blood was from the monster mother. The lady thought that the young man was rich and handsome, so she became the only one who spoke to him. This may also be needed in the future. Stepping forward, the brunette greets the crowd. She has prepared a performance, and even if she is not a professional, it will be enough. Her Majesty, the Queen's performance will be something everyone around them wants to experience. Virgo raises her hands over the piano. A bright and clear melody echoes throughout the hall, reaching those who truly appreciate music. The girl is sure that nothing will happen, because she has learned this since childhood. She hasn't worked out for several months, but her fingers remember everything. Last time the heroine did something she was not prepared for, so everything went wrong. This was her first time encountering reception. Having finished and receiving an admiring reaction from all those present, the heroine accepts further praise. Everything is going great. Virgo lacks skills, but even so, she prepared the composition Mask. This is a sonata, so it's worth using the accompaniment. Turning on the instrument, the lady is about to start playing, but the voice of the heroine and Miss Sellerman can be heard from it. People almost immediately begin to realize that this sounds like the voice of Her Majesty the Queen. She, in turn, freezes in horror. The thing does not turn off, continuing to play and reproduce the sounds and words that are heard. All the same voices. The Queen realizes that it is time to save her reputation, which is already dirty, so she knocks over the instrument, breaking it into pieces. Looking around, that same sticky, nasty atmosphere of condemnation and hostility immediately becomes noticeable. People look as if they no longer want anything to do with Her Majesty, preparing to quickly leave. The woman could not have deliberately wished for the deterioration of public opinion about Rebelia, and this is the only justification. Not even a year has passed since the lady came to this palace. Everyone must understand exactly what they are saying. The Duke comes forward, making his protests. According to the lady, everything is so easy and simple, but she simply did not fulfill her duties for almost a year. The Virgin bows her head, begging Norman to believe her. He was always on her side, no matter what. Just a few moments ago, the Duke thought he believed, but the magical instrument proved everything. This thing was designed to investigate crimes and protect the security of the country, which means it is impossible to fake the sound source. I can't believe that the girl could manipulate society just to harm the Empress. She wants to prove the opposite. Everything will be all right because the Duke, like no one else, is weak to the tears of his girlfriend. He always protected her. Norman is about to say that he believes his acquaintance, but this does not happen. The eyes sparkle with anger. Unfortunately, this is true, because the young man cannot believe the false words that were spoken. He's not going to denigrate the Queen. Saying goodbye to everyone at the banquet, the hero once again asks for forgiveness for the spoiled mood and finally leaves into the distance. Someone dared to change the recording on the magic instrument, thereby causing Aisha a lot of problems. She doesn't even know who it is. After the incident, the maids immediately reported everything to the mistress, who also had the right to know what was happening. The woman spread rumors that only disturbed the first empress. This only made it clear that His Highness would punish the heroine. No one has ever found out who exactly changed the entry on the magic instrument, and the maiden is not sure that this person will always be on her side. The conversation is interrupted by another maid. One friend had already visited Her Majesty and was planning to talk. As it turned out, this is Alexander. Before the lady had time to say that she was sleeping, he himself entered the hall, since he decided not to wait and came in person. From the expression on the maiden's face, it is clear that the action was correct. She almost pretended she wasn't even in the castle. Entering the chambers without permission is arrogance, but lying to the emperor is considered a much more terrible act. No one knows why Kostya came back, but this does not change the fact that something needs to be asked in order to clarify what is happening. Everyone knows what happened at the Queen's party, but no one knows who was the one who changed the recording. Unexpectedly, the lady was the first to ask. For some reason, the man thought that she would be interested in what kind of punishment the Queen would suffer. Traces of a magical listening device were found in the office, But other than that, nothing else was found. This doesn't seem like Alex's doing, but then perhaps there is another person who has high animosity towards Aisha. The virgin's punishment will be a probationary period of 3 months, and budget cuts for some time too. The young man actually asks if the wife wants to punish the concubine more, but she, no matter how much she hates Aisha, says no. The queen's actions, on the contrary, helped, because it brought her much closer to the divorce that will take place. This is a resourceful method, but the king himself is worried that the lady might get hurt. We are not talking about physical harm, but about wounds on the heart, which usually heal with great difficulty, even with great effort. There is no person who would not be at least a little hurt by the condemnation directed at him. Even if it is related to the purpose, it is still the same. The girl does not want to show her weaknesses, so she pretends that she is holding up well, even if this is not at all the case. Someday, if the heroine is having a hard time, she must step over herself and ask for help, even if not from Alexander. The wife has never heard such words of concern in her entire life, but it seems that now she may mistake them for sincere concern. This is all just a trick that seems to lure the girl into thinking. In fact, this is all a lie. He is a character within the story who sees no one other than Aisha. You should calm down and just let go. If this man is so good, then the question arises why he did not pay attention to the girl for 3 whole years, as if she did not exist. The girl no longer wants anyone to hurt her. Loving romance and watching dramas, the heroine is not ready for falsehood. She is not quite ordinary, because if someone shows interest in love affairs, she will think what kind of person would behave like that. Such a maiden is much different from Robelia, who was completely different in character. The queen wanted Alexander's attention more than anything else in this world. No, she doesn't understand how you can love like that. Right now, the lady feels Robelia's feelings, and this is not necessary, but the feelings are stronger. Resentment takes over the mind. I would like to rip out everything I feel so that I am no longer vulnerable. The brunette will never understand this. Perhaps the hero is going to apologize, even if it is not true, and he will lose his sense of trust. For some reason, the boy does not want everything to be as usual, because this is not at all the same. The hand squeezes the chair with force to release emotions. A smile that is usually reserved for others could become that wonderful thing that a young man wants to have. It's strange that the sensation doesn't even leave the body. This is because the redhead is such a talented person. If it were for the sake of profit, the rabbit would have made false apologies 100 times already, which in fact would not have affected anything. Trying to say something, the heroine's face changes. She doesn't want to lose the last bit of dignity she has left. The reason for anxiety is that the soul and body of a person suffer from the fact that nothing can be done. It remains to ask for one last favor, which should work. The young man begs to give him at least one more chance. If the lady just decides to give this chance, everything will become a little better. They will have a new, completely different life. The hero promises to give everything the woman wants. She won't have to regret anything. Everything will be the way they dreamed about it. All this will be done especially for the wife, who deserved to receive this from the very beginning, immediately after the wedding. The last thing Alexander can do is let his girlfriend leave. He doesn't want that to happen, and even so, she's not going to disappear. Even so, despite everything else that her husband said, the Empress is still going to leave him. She doesn't see the point in this. The life that the heroine wants, and the happiness that she so desires, will never come true next to this person. What the girl wants is not power at all. She just wants the calm and happy life that she will get. Alexander would not break his promise, because if the lady stayed with him, he would bathe in luxury. Even with enormous money and power, if a person does not value only one thing, it means that the end has come. This is too difficult, because the guy still received absolutely everything his soul desired, so the changes did not suit him. The woman knows the meaning of the words of the Mustafo oath, which is usually taken, because if you break it, after death, you will be able to fall into a sea of fire. This is how the meaning of words becomes clear. In the future, no matter what happens, the brunette is not going to leave his wife. Now there are only 2 options left: someone's death. As long as the emperor is alive, if he refuses the woman, then after death he will forever burn in the sea of fire, the lost world. It is imprudent to make such an oath without even asking the girl's permission. It needs to be abolished, even if it is unrealistic. Everything Robelia tries to say sounds like a futile attempt, because everyone knows exactly what it means. Now we will have to get used to the place of the Empress, because no one left a choice. The young man leaves, leaving the girl alone with her thoughts. After everything that happened, the girl only realized that she was finished. The young man swore an oath to Mustafo, and this meant only one thing. The girl thought about it, but the maid came about sponsorship. This time it will be a hospital and a library, as well as an orphanage. For aristocrats, buying dresses and jewelry is important, and they consider financial assistance to poor people to be something useless. For 7 months now, the Virgin has been continuously donating money, since it is better to spend it on this than on some trinkets. Casey, who has been silently watching the lady, can no longer remain silent, so she asks what happened between the lady and His Highness. People around me blink their eyes in surprise. After the story, they didn't even understand how it happened that the king took such an oath. It cannot be just love, because if he really loved, he would not hold his wife by force. Now the heroine understands that she really needs to change her plan on how to still get a divorce, because this is important. In the picture, the lady behaved like a villain and tried to turn herself into luxury, but in reality, imagination and abilities have limits. If this didn't work, then everything will be fine only when a new way to escape is found. If there is no thorough preparation, then it will not be possible to overcome the palace security. She can't do it alone, so she needs an assistant. We need a person from the outside who is not afraid of the emperor, but such a person is not lying around on the road, so it's worth thinking a few more times. The maid bursts in, interrupting her thoughts. An important guest has arrived to the queen, whom she does not yet know very well. The man who arrived uninvited is Norman Schwarzkopf. Even his friends don't treat him very well. The Duke is a minor character in this original novel. In importance, he ranks even higher than Caleb. This man is quite sincere, which is why in the story many shed tears because of him, but the downside is that he is a close associate of the queen. Perhaps the young man came to check the situation, but there was no such scene in the novel. The story is different from the original, so the more information she gets about those differences, the better. Deciding on this act, the lady asks the maid to let Norman into her chambers for a conversation. Coming forward, the heroine greets the Duke, asking forgiveness for the fact that they met like this after waiting. The blonde smiles, reaching down to kiss the young lady's hand. He says the same greeting to match. The man is Aisha's intimate, which means he cannot experience good feelings. Better be careful. This is the first time they meet face to face. If it weren't for the queen's banquet, they would never have met, although the blonde suddenly claims that he had already met the girl once. That's all, therefore, with sparkling eyes, the girl asks why the queen's close associate needed her. I can't believe that everyone around considers the guy close to Aisha, but in fact it's true. He acts like he would do anything for her. There is no point in denying, but what the person came for has absolutely nothing to do with everything else. He understands that he should have done this earlier. The hero did not come to secretly spy on others, because for this he had a different mission. Still, about to go to the end, the red-haired woman asks what was so important that forced Norman to come to the queen. Walking in from afar, the blonde asks if Rebellia remembers the St. Johanna orphanage. Finally remembering what we are talking about, the girl nods. She sponsors him, but does not immediately understand why these questions are asked. The heroine allocated a huge amount about 7 months ago, and for some reason sends anonymous donations every month. The young man tries to explain the situation, but in the end, he simply gives up. It will be easier to explain without people coming out. Caleb is the first to be outraged. This is impossible, because no one knows what to expect from such a person. He can behave as he pleases. Looking into the Duke's eyes, the girl realizes that they really need to talk. She asks everyone to leave them just for a little while. Looking at Casey, the lady promises that she will call someone as soon as she needs something. She is already confident in her safety. After everyone has left, the heroine asks the Duke if he is going to speak. As the lady wanted, she sent all the people away, and now she is waiting for the story. The very first sentence strikes to the core. As it turned out, the young man has an illegitimate child. Putting her hands forward, the girl tries to slow down the story. It seems she still needs some mental preparation. Everything is clear, but at the same time it seems that this is nonsense. The Duke could not have children out of wedlock, given that he is not married. This is a minor character who is pretty decent. The original did not have such permissive circumstances. The child's name is Ernst, but it seems the others call him Ern. For some personal reasons, the man cannot take care of his son, so he ended up in a shelter. The boy ended up in St. Johanna's orphanage, so the Duke conducted an investigation about who was transferring the money. The hero thought that the maiden knew about a secret, even if there was nothing to indicate this. There are still many questions left. The man doesn't seem that shameless, so the girl asks how the child ended up in the orphanage. It turned out that this was his mother's last wish. The girl wanted to take the child as far as possible from the duchy so that he would not be bombarded with prejudice. The woman saw her man, who was forced to live his whole life with the stigma of being a half-human monster. The common sense and intentions of these people are higher, understanding the beauty, so she does not ask anything. She can't fully understand everything. The man is not going to ignore his son, because when he grows up, he will give him the title and lands. So he constantly sponsors the orphanage. The method had its limits. The more money there is to support, the faster rumors spread. I wouldn't want it to be revealed that Ernst is Norman's child. At the moment when the young man was immersed in the experiences that were eating him up, another, larger sponsor appeared. The hero was sincerely happy, because thanks to the donations, even if he leaves the stream, the child will be able to grow up in good conditions. At first, the acquaintance thought that the sponsor was Aisha, since the information was indicated on the palace. The blonde thought that it was normal for a saint to support children, but it turned out that it was the queen. Smiling, the hero thanks Her Majesty for the kindness she showed, without expecting any return from others. Alexander sits in his chambers, not even thinking about what is now happening in the palace courtyard between the duke and his wife. The king definitely did what the lady didn't want and kept her close to him even against her will. But for some reason it seems that she is starting to move away. All these sensations suspiciously make it difficult to understand what is happening. It feels like your feet are in a viscous swamp. Perhaps if the young man had not ignored his wife for 3 years, and given at least a drop of kindness and love, everything would have been completely different. If the hero showed the respect due to his wife, she would give him her beautiful smile, which cannot be compared with anyone else. Alexander needs to come to his senses. She is simply a qualified person who is noticed by a man. You can't just have feelings for an instrument. My thoughts are interrupted by a brunette who, smiling, enters the room, calling His Majesty by name to attract attention. They did not agree to meet, but what is more important is that the saint missed her husband. It is immediately obvious why the heroine came, but instead of confessing, she shows a despicable image that is hypocritical. The queen simply uses a calm, aristocratic manner of speech, but this does not change anything. This is disgusting. For some reason, this is annoying now. Getting down to business, the man asks what exactly the woman needs. The girl told about the punishment that was given to her. She has always obeyed the will of the emperor, so she asks to be spared at least this time. Looking at the brunette, the young man sighs. As it became clear, this woman does not at all live up to the expectations that were placed on her. This is not the first time that the queen says that she does everything, but she must also remember the first meeting and the contract they signed. The girl was unable to accomplish anything, but she was promoted from the role of a saint to the role of a queen. She was obligated to do everything properly, but she didn't. Virgo did a lot of stupid things, trampled her reputation into the mud, and also interfered with her plans and goals. Even so, she says she followed all the instructions. Burying her face in her hands, the brunette almost cries, saying that she is a bad girl. Even so, they cannot throw her out of the palace. The image that I had just seen was imprinted in my memory for a long time. According to the holy law, divorce is prohibited, and since she follows it, it is logical. Until the state religion of the empire changes, it is impossible to divorce a lady. Coming closer, the brunette assures that the man needs her like no one else. She will always be there, not like that woman does. From the first time they met, Aisha became much more courageous, breaking all her boundaries. Everything that the emperor says only means that he does not want to waste his life on unnecessary things. The girl freezes. The atmosphere in the room suddenly changed, which means that the young man is furious. The misunderstanding is that the girl will never be able to replace the first queen, no matter how hard she tries. The result will always be the same. A brunette cannot be a worthy replacement for a virgin because no one will ever replace her. The conversation is interrupted by the secretary, who enters the office, calling His Majesty. They still have some unfinished business. Passing by the girl, as if she were transparent, the brunette asks the secretary what happened so urgently. Just now, everything that happened meant absolutely nothing to my husband. He pretends that everything is fine without even changing his emotions. The king was informed that the empress and the duke were talking alone. He arrived unexpectedly and also asked everyone to send away so that he could be alone. Schwarzkopf's sudden behavior is a little confusing. He is Aisha's subordinate and close associate, which can lead to trouble. There is no problem in conversations, but even the brunette himself really doesn't like that this couple is left alone with each other. The two remained in the garden, and as the meeting came to an end, the blonde kneels, gently kissing the girl's hand. There is admiration in the eyes, and some other mixed feelings that are really impossible to understand. No longer intending to stand on the sidelines, the guy steps forward, amazed at what an amazing scene is unfolding right before his eyes. Apparently, it's become fashionable lately to get down on one knee in front of someone else's wife, like it's nothing. The Duke doesn't give up either. He simply showed the respect that a queen deserves and nothing more. He didn't know that this would confuse his husband. There is nothing strange in the capital when a married man has an affair on the side. This is a subtle reference to Aisha, who even lives as a concubine. Alexander appeared as if out of nowhere and began to argue, and Norman responded with the same caustic phrases, which aggravated the whole situation. Virgo tries to say something, but the brunette just nods. Culture in the Empire allows for two different types of relationships. Usually this is said in secret, and not directly to the spouse's face. Schwarzkopf only responds by saying that one wife lives in the palace, and a spouse lives in the other, and they are dating. No longer willing to fight with words, the young man asks the Duke to be careful before he gets himself into some trouble. If the young man tarnishes his reputation, it will tarnish it for his friend. It seems that the husband is thinking about the reason why the young man became close to the enemy. The hero does not intend to denigrate the honor of the Empress, but in relation to Robelia, his intentions are pure. He truly only wants the best. The young lady is a benefactor, so the Duke promises to contact him later by letter. After that, he leaves the couple. That's how the whole situation ended. People who witnessed it began to whisper about a love triangle. Alex wanted to say something as his justification, but in fact the heroine did not care about this. A man with beautiful hair is the high priest. He stands in front of the woman with the baby, promising that he will read the saint's message, but only after all the work has been completed. Bowing down, the man tells the maiden that her husband worked as a spy for the sacred organization, but she said that she did not know. We need to get to the main point before it's too late. Looking straight into the woman's eyes, the guy asks her to answer honestly and not lie this time. The safety of the child depends on this. Swallowing her resentment in tears, the girl says that she really knew everything, but she doesn't even have a clue where he lives now. Virgo always said that such a thing was dangerous for their family, but he did not listen to her. The words fly out with despair. After this, the hero smiles. He heard everything he wanted, so he gives the command to kill, leaving into the distance. A message from the saint made the man agree to go to the capital. It seems that the lady cannot solve her problems on her own. After everything that happened, the lady had to face some difficulties. Only after returning to the palace did the lady realize that the most suitable person to help in the escape was Duke Schwarzkopf. It has many awards and riches, and in its almost impenetrable territories, one can hope to hide from one's husband. The girl understands that she needs to start acting, but she cannot just use a person. She will put him in an awkward position. The blonde is too kind to be used as a tool, but at the same time there is no other option or person. After a while, Robelia changed her mind. She decided to become a villain even earlier, so she didn't want to do anything wrong. The woman invited Norman to a conversation, and as it turned out, he also wanted to send a message to the palace to see each other. There is no need for gratitude, because the Empress called the man only out of necessity. A new plan has emerged. Smiling, the young man is glad that the queen needed him. Everything he said at the first meeting is true. Now it's the heroine's turn to become frank. She listened to Norman's story, which meant it was his turn to listen. Alexander paces from side to side in his office. He was informed that Robelia had called Schwarzkopf to talk. Now the hour designated for conversation has come, which means that they are just talking about something, and again in private. This is the second time the girl is talking to a stranger, while she finds it unpleasant to encounter her husband, even by mistake. To the same extent that the beauty moves away from the man, she becomes closer to the Duke, who has become her new friend. They spend time together, which makes it clear that topics for conversation have been found a long time ago. What is happening adds to the confidence that Robelia is not interested in a relationship with Alexander. Finishing her story, the lady sighs. She really wants to divorce the emperor. The girl wants to throw off the unsuitable crown and finally leave the walls of the palace, which bother her so much. Instead of considering the queen crazy, Norman suggests that she escape abroad, where she will not be caught. They took the story seriously, just as requested. To all this, be that as it may, it is still possible to understand the heroine's feelings. The woman breaks down. She had already said earlier that she would use the man as a tool, which means he would not benefit. Bowing his head, the blonde promises that he will become the most useful tool, since he has such a fate. This is not the first day that Caleb has been listening to rumors in which even the emperor, who most likely simply does not care, has been dragged into them. Even the maids are tired of everything that is happening, so almost every day they try to remind them that there is no point in worrying. Smiling, the queen assures that everything is in perfect order. She has no intention of being upset. In fact, all the rumors are becoming burdensome to death, but the maiden tries to cheer up the others so that they do not worry. Alexander didn't like the new rumors, so he became even angrier. All this is reminiscent of what happened when Caleb appeared in the castle. This place really loves rumors, even if such things usually shouldn't happen around the emperor. Norman said that he would deal with the duchy himself, so he removed a large burden that was pressing from the heroine's shoulders. People around, as one, want to help. The heroine is not yet so shameless that she does not feel burdened. Changing the subject, the girl turns to the maid, asking if all the things have been moved to her new palace. The girl decided to check how everything was going. Because she was wasteful, there were too many things, which meant it would take a long time. Nevertheless, the heroine made a list of what could be placed and where. That's why there isn't much work left. Walking towards the exit, the lady freezes. She stumbled upon His Majesty for the millionth time, as if he had arranged it himself. Lately, the guy has become too irritable. At every opportunity, he mentioned Schwarzkopf. According to the heroine, he is a pleasant conversationalist with whom you want to communicate. And it's perfectly clear that he is the queen's close associate. But this is not the most important thing. His Majesty is worried that the family will be involved in a scandal if Robelia makes the young man her lover. But this will not happen. She is no longer interested in love. The girl begins to sort things into different rooms, without noticing how a box of things flies towards her. Without having time to do anything, the heroine woke up only when she felt the brunette next to her, who saved her. People around begin to ask if everything is okay, but the first, of course, is Alexander, who looks worried. Picking up the beauty in his arms, the man is going to take her to the doctors so that they can examine her accurately. The doctor dispelled all doubts and fear, because fortunately the girl was not hurt. Everything ended well. Alexander still believed that it was worth it. He understands that he needs to check carefully every time. This time the lady was carried away, but no one knows what could happen, so sometimes it's better to worry and check than to do the opposite. In this case, if something happened, it would be better to start treatment immediately, so this was incredibly pleasing. Her heart is racing in her chest, as if it were feelings, but trying to drive it away, the girl sighs, saying that everything is fine. There is no need to worry anymore. Redhead is confident that she can take care of herself, even if she was saved this time. No matter what his wife says, the young man just wants to take care of her. Even imagining it, it becomes difficult to withstand this. It is not anxiety or feigned speech that lurks in the golden eyes, but rather despair, which almost swallowed the young man headlong. This usually manifests itself in someone who has lost something and does not want to experience it again. True despair usually does not look like itself, but the person who has experienced it notices it immediately. In fact, the story of Alexander in the original was not that long. It was all over pretty quickly, despite the preface. He was the son of the 17th queen without power. The young man was drawn into the struggle for the throne, so his mother always asked him to hide. The aging emperor became immersed in religion and neglected state affairs, while his successors fought daily for the throne. To protect herself and her son, the woman did everything possible. She wanted better. All the efforts made did not pay off in the end. The queen's death was so insignificant that no one discussed it. As time passed, things began to deteriorate, and it was then that Alexander appeared, who had been increasing his strength all this time. The hero picked the perfect moment to attack the imperial palace, and, having overthrown the emperor, he himself became the emperor. The girl sincerely felt sorry for him, but she had never encountered anything like this, so she could not say anything. At the same time, the queen's condition only worsened. She understands that she cannot pull herself together, but nothing helps. For several days now, the lady has been lying in bed, not going out into the world at all. She doesn't see the need for this. For some reason, because of the woman, it turned out that everyone around began to slander the girl, giving her names that were offensive. Hearing someone's voice, the young lady grabs the artifact, rejoicing that the high priest has appeared and is calling her. It became rare to hear from the girl, which made the man think that the stone had broken. This is the reason why the young man got involved. Smiling, the heroine assures that everything is fine with her. Perhaps very soon she will be able to become empress as soon as she removes Robelia. Lying is the most terrible sin, and it is worth knowing about it. The high priest is already well aware of how things really are. The young man asks not to make excuses. He understands that it is difficult to do anything, so he headed to the capital right then. You need to try and overthrow the stupid woman in order to install someone suitable in her place. The virgin promises that she will do everything in her power to help the high priest with the task he has set. The saint trusts only an acquaintance, because everyone else has turned away from her. She has no one else to turn to. In order to remove the empress, you will need to try. But first, you need to tell only the truth. To prove his serious intentions, the young man asks to conclude another contract that will protect them. People began to spread another rumor about how Robelia was helping the poor and those in the shelter. Her kindness knows no bounds. The servant listens to how everything happens, rejoicing that they succeeded, even if at the very beginning he did not think about success. This was Alexander's order. He was going to do something in honor of his wife, and now he managed to pull it off. Everything will be fine, but the man is not sure whether the queen will be against using her good name. A woman will not do this. She is generous to the poor, so she will not mind a relief fund. Quite recently, the fact was revealed that the girl is engaged in such donations, and this is a chance to strengthen her position. It is necessary to make sure that the lady does not get even a single chance to leave, but at the same time, there is not really a way out. The girl abandoned the idea of spoiling her reputation and public opinion, but she would also like to refrain from increasing support. There are people who will be sad as soon as the heroine disappears somewhere. I wish they didn't feel remorse. The maid asks about the next people who ask questions, but the heroine changes the topic almost immediately. It's worth dressing up before meeting your family. They came without an invitation, and Her Majesty received the family, despite their busy schedule. Blanche is Robelia's maiden name, so those sitting in front of her are the beauty's current family in the story. The man almost immediately begins to praise his daughter, talking about how wonderful she is. She was always the favorite child. The young man calls precious the one whom he did not come to see for 3 whole years, and only appeared when the need arose. These two characters didn't even appear in the original story, and were missing from the beginning. They became known only after a while. What is known is that for several generations, the Blanche family was strong and powerful, but other information is difficult to find even in newspapers. The older brother smiles, saying that they were both worried that their sister would take the desire to meet somehow differently. The only topic of conversation seems to be the fact that relations between the queen and the king have noticeably improved. The lady had already seen this type of face before, which she could not forget. It's like a family from a past life. Still, all actions have a reason, and the Virgin wants to know it. For some reason, the family invited their daughter to a meeting. The man says that things are bad in the family, so he will have to sell the house in order to do anything. Everyone tried, but there was no choice left. All these words are reminiscent of what the father told his daughter in a past life. The speech seems to echo in my head. The father talks too smoothly about selling his daughter for the sake of the family. In this case, the lands should have been sold even then, instead of selling Robelia. The woman is furious. She would like to help the family, but only if they were sincere and kind to her. Just as she is about to leave, the lady listens to words and forgiveness, but this does not change anything. She no longer cares whether the dukedom will fall. The heroine is no longer part of the family, because long ago she became a stranger who was sold to the capital. For some reason, the meeting doubly reminded me of what the Empress had been trying so hard to forget all this time. Robelia's family is different. Those people who pretended to be worried and looked for a woman when there was a benefit, that's also different. The girl understands that this is not what she thinks about, but in her head, she still wants to scream. What is happening is incredibly hurtful. You can't cry, because all you have to do is hold on until she reaches the palace. As soon as the lady is alone, she can suffer as much as she wants. Alexander, standing at the window, notices Blanche, who runs into the distance as if something had happened. Not intending to leave his wife unattended this time, the brunette heads to her room to see everything with his own eyes. Sitting down on the bed, the young man asks for forgiveness. He sees the girl crying into her pillow, but he doesn't even know that she has a bad relationship with her family. The hero is to blame because he wasn't there. People usually consider family to be the best, so he thought the heroine was doing the same. Continuing to sob, the beauty tries to ask why exactly she became the empress. She regrets that day. As it turned out, the brunette wasn't even the crown prince, and what he lacked most was legitimacy. The lady's family was in decline, but could help with it. Now everything is in order, because no one is protesting against the king whom they themselves elected. It would be useful to simply kick out the queen and make her a concubine. She is a saint, and she is just a maiden from a duchy that is falling apart. 3 years ago, my husband considered beauty only a way to maintain status, but now everything has changed a lot. Now the brunette is sincerely glad that his wife is Blanche. because he realized that he loves her more than anything in the world. A sincere apology, not for the sake of one's own pride, is all I wanted to hear for so long. The main character of this world and novel was the one who said this. This man must belong to another woman, which hurts even more. Tears flow down her cheeks again as the lady screams about how much she hates him. Of all people, this man became dear. He reaches forward and hugs the girl to calm her down a little. Pressing Rebelia's head closer to himself, the young man again asks for forgiveness for everything he has done. The girl was very tired. She lived alone and isolated from her family, then was transported to another world to impersonate another person. It was definitely because of everything that came so unexpectedly that the beauty accepted consolations that helped. After a long hour, the heroine finally fell asleep. The husband put her to bed, trying to understand how it happened that he caught her tears. Going out into the street, the young man ordered the Empress's family to be moved outside the palace so that they would not interfere. If Blanchet leaves himself, everything will not end so sadly, but if he doesn't, everything will end worse. The choice remains with the man. The high priest arrived the next morning. He greets those gathered sweetly, not believing that he was given such an honor. The emperor smiles back. A dear guest arrived, so they could not do otherwise. In the parts that Rebelia read, this man did not appear, so it became difficult to predict what kind of relationship he had with Aisha. It was said that those who moved between dimensions went to a sacred state where they were trained, so he was some kind of teacher or guardian. Everyone around believes that this couple is like brother and sister, but the atmosphere that hangs between them does not seem too friendly. The young man must have come because he knew the whole story, but, according to him, he wants to hear a lot more than he already knows. Even the high priest has many doubts about what he does not know, so he orders the woman to quickly tell him everything. The girl begins to tell how everything turned out. At first, Rebelia said that she wanted a divorce, and suddenly began to behave strangely and even kicked the aristocrat. She quit her job and blamed everything on Aisha, as if she suddenly didn't care about anything. Obviously, the girl did nothing and just watched this chaos, so she almost immediately receives a slap in the face. The man smiles as if nothing happened. He asks to continue the story, slightly cleaning his hand, as if he had touched where he didn't want to. To deprive the lady of her power, the queen opened a salon, but nothing came of it. Without allowing her to finish, the brunette strikes again, apologizing, because the beauty's face is her rare weapon that affects others. The body will become the future empress, so the man quickly fixes everything. Even if the heroine is shaking because of stupidity, this does not mean that she is allowed to do so. Considering her knowledge, the young man did not think that the lady had the talent to repel people. In any case, he is ready to help even such a pitiful person. In return, the high priest simply asks to sign a new contract, which he has already drawn up. The price will be the complete destruction of the soul. There is not even a reason to worry. While the girl is alive, she will be able to enjoy the greatest power that a person can receive. This will be the best choice only if the beauty does not want to go to God, becoming completely pushed aside. Extending her hand, the brunette asks to be made the main one. She agrees even to such absurd conditions, because power and fear obscure her eyes, preventing her from seeing anything. Leaning closer, the high priest grabs the beauty's wrist. He laughs disgustingly, which is not something a normal person would do, rejoicing at his future success. The girl will definitely get what she also wants so badly. In order to become happy, they will have to get rid of the obsessed woman who continues to ruin everything. Men and women are rushing to pass the time. There is too much noise around, and also the weather is gradually becoming good. This all means that the lady has not been able to get a divorce for a year now. At first, the girl thought that she would receive freedom in a maximum of 3 months. But in the end, nothing worked out. It is still difficult to understand everything that is happening in this world. In the Kastya Empire, according to tradition, the social season begins with the imperial family, and this year the beginning will be announced in the city near the Topaz Palace. The banquet will last 3 days and 2 nights. There's no reason for the queen to help with the preparations, because no one even asked her to. But somehow, because of what happened, she feels like she has to do it. Perhaps the only reason is that the lady is too busy with work, so she prefers to try something new. The first thing you can do is go for a walk. People really need as much sunlight as possible, because it has a great effect on the skin. The walk is spoiled by Aisha, who appears out of nowhere with the young man. The girl answers the question of what she is doing. She decided to rest a little, so the children deliberately left to leave her alone, at least for a little while. The heroine showed the high priest the Topaz Palace. Recently, the girl began to behave better, as if she suddenly felt much better. This is not so important, because this man is much more interesting. Smiling a smile that sends goosebumps through his body, the brunette assures that he really wanted to see the Empress. God himself ordered them to meet and establish at least some contact. The way Her Majesty cares about the people and the way she loves them makes a good impression. I would like to know as much as possible. The couple's conversation had not ended the day before. Isha didn't immediately understand what the man meant by possessed, so she began to pry out the truth. Unlike the queen herself, only Robelia's soul could change. In this case, calling her obsessed would be the most accurate, because that's how it is. This simply cannot happen, because the brunette still cannot believe it. Calling someone obsessed for no reason makes no sense. There was no oracle either, and not a single such obsession was ever recorded. According to the high priest, this does not matter, because it does not prove anything. Creatures like them exist in this world quite calmly. This can only mean that Robelia is also quite comfortable in her body. If, as the man said, this woman is possessed, then everything must be done to bring her to light. We need to get rid of it as soon as possible. In the presence of these two, the girl suddenly felt uneasy. There is no way to give reasons for feelings, but this sticky thing doesn't seem to let you move. Smiling, the young man, as if knowing everything, but as if asking, notices that Her Majesty has changed a lot just a year ago. It became known that the character and tastes had changed a lot, and this became the first thing to notice. Even such things as the views and values that are acquired throughout life have also become distorted. This all indicates that the girl has become a different person. Such speech only makes it more scary to be alone. The conversation, as best he can, by the way, is interrupted by Alexander, who runs towards him, talking about how glad he is that he has finally found where his wife is. They gathered in the garden and did not even call its owner. The brunette tries to smile as if everything is fine, placing his hand on the woman's shoulder. The young man appeared too suddenly. He always appears at the very moment when he needs it, as if he is standing around the corner and eavesdropping on conversations. Such antics are sometimes incredibly annoying, but this time the lady is happy that Kastya is next to her because his presence has made her calmer. Watching how the couple behaves, the high priest chuckles. He tries not to show his true emotions as he puts his mask back on. They didn't talk about anything that could be called important. Alexander at first thought that each of them was causing trouble for the Empress. The high priest is an important diplomatic guest, so such treatment seems too rude even for a girl. You can't contradict words. The brunette laughs slightly, but lowers his gaze to the floor. Obviously, out of joy, he was too clingy to the tired man, who obviously did not want this. To some extent, the man turned out to be right, because it is best for a girl to rest, and even the emperor agrees with this, but you need to think about it. The hero noticed Alexander's indifference. The saint is standing right in front of him, trying to get his attention, but he doesn't seem to care. He's going to take Blanchet to her chambers. Nodding, the guy promises that everything will be fine if the couple returns to the castle first. He should have a conversation with Aisha, who, as if feeling the pressure, freezes. Looking at Robelia for the last time, the high priest expresses his desire to meet next time in a more favorable environment. Taking a few steps back, the heroine begins to scold her husband for exactly how he behaved. He was extremely polite, so he doesn't even consider it necessary to listen. It remains to think about something more important. The high priest is a man who came from a sacred state, so at first Robelia thought that he knew a way to bring the maiden back. Now the lady is not sure whether the man will help her. At first glance, his relationship with Aisha looks strange, so one should not interfere. Noticing the thoughtful expression on his face, the husband puts his hand on his cheek, forcing him to look into his eyes. The girl looks tired, so he decides to ask everything right away. Not intending to answer the question truthfully, the red-haired woman moves the young man's body away, expressing her displeasure. She has become too busy these days. Opening the social season is indeed a difficult task, so the hero asks what he can do. The social season has begun. It's not in full swing yet, but just a little while longer, and only more people who are interested will arrive here. The event on the first day is a hunting competition. Men go hunting in the forest to later bring back prey, which the cooks will prepare. The noble aristocratic women gather to pray for a safe conclusion and to enjoy tea and sweets that have been prepared for them. Also, love periodically blossoms during the event. Casey talks about the refreshing atmosphere, hoping something similar will happen to her one day. The lady laughs lightly. It seems that the maid is too lonely to dream of something like this. There is no limit to the joy, even among the servants, as this season inspires them, but the heroine is a little upset by the fact that the children are obliged to follow her everywhere. Perhaps, in such turmoil, the girl can still have fun, finding worthy activities, but the rest cannot do this, since they must help. Coming to a tea party, the beauty looks for where to sit. She has no friends, and sometimes it feels too acute. She notices two ladies quietly greeting the maiden. One of them, obviously the bravest, asks the lady about her desire to sit at the same table with them. They would like to have the queen for company. The girl quickly runs through all her dialogues in her head. She doesn't know these two, so she can only assume that they are Robelia's acquaintances, which means that this is already a problem. The first lady with blonde hair and a yellow dress looks down at the floor, trying to introduce herself. She is the daughter of the Viscount of Orleans, Marilyn. Previously, the girl had only seen the Empress in newspapers and read many articles about her, but did not think that they would still be able to meet in person. It was something of a dream. Feelings from new acquaintances seem somehow familiar. For some reason, for a lady, they are somewhat similar to Banya, who always reacts in the same way. Robelia could not have known these teenagers, even due to her closeness. It's worth calming down while the other lady introduces herself as Anna, daughter of Baron Hers. Perhaps these two really know the queen, but she has never met them, so she doesn't really want to sit with those who are like a closed book to her. She doesn't know what to expect. The maid standing nearby is trying to hint to the mistress to treat the others more calmly, but she is not going to listen. She immediately says that there is enough space for everyone. There is no choice left, so in order not to upset Casey, the girl invites the others to the table. Only this time they can be together. For some reason, everyone else looks much more excited than the heroine herself. She remains completely calm, as if all conversations are passing by. Deciding to keep the conversation going at least a little, the girl asks about the newspapers from which the exploits of the Empress were read. There were all the activities that were scheduled. Now it became clear what exactly was said there. All attempts to get a divorce failed, so they were presented as something cool and outstanding. Trying to object, Robelia assures of the misunderstanding that occurred. The girl is not as good as they think she is, but according to those gathered, this is unrealistic. Each of them wants to be like the Empress. This reaction is already becoming commonplace and familiar. The woman is tired of what happens every time she tries to object. The conversation stops. Countess Coast, who came up from the next table, greets the moon of the empire, calling her name, Liliana Coast. When His Majesty was younger, a woman taught him etiquette. Virgo is uncomfortable saying this, but she came up to give advice in memory of the past. It is worth looking around to understand that aristocrats are unhappy. Showing the mother of the empire sitting with unmarried women is extremely bad. Anna jumps up, starting to apologize for something she didn't even do. The fact that a lady sits surrounded by those who are younger and less experienced can affect her reputation and dignity. The smile seems fake, but you want to punish the guest. The reputation of the imperial family cannot be harmed in any way. I can't believe that the Empress is so weak that she could ruin her reputation because of a promise with the wrong people. The woman advises Countess Coast to be careful with her words. She's trying to say she meant something else, but that doesn't mean she should act that way. Before you open your mouth, you should think about who the person is talking to. Robelia may behave even worse next time than this time. Liliana starts screaming about ignorance. They treated her as if she had nothing to do with the emperor, which is already considered rude. Advice should be answered completely differently.